Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here at our regular meeting, City Council meeting for July the 17th. It is a little past 6 o'clock, 6:02. Can we please get roll call?
Mayor Didball,
Here.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Buckland,
Here.
Councilmember Cardoza,
Here.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Here.
Thank you. We're going to have Councilmember Buckland lead us in the invocation, and can we get Councilmember Manny Cardoza lead us in the pledge tonight?
If you'll bow your heads with me as I pray. Almighty Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of those that are gathered here tonight. We're truly blessed by your presence. We ask for guidance and a clear vision so the efforts of staff and council will be of benefit to those that live and work in this community. And tonight we also ask for additional prayers for the Kreger family, just as health issues have occurred with Steve's dad. And we just ask that you provide comfort and support as they go through the next couple of weeks with these issues. It's in your most blessed name that I pray. Amen.
Salute. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So tonight we have a couple of presentations and proclamations. We'll start with, we have the Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation. So if we can get Deborah Linker-Lee to the front, please. Thank you. We'll come right here in the center. How's that?
Yeah, Manny.
We're always in the middle. Hi, Deborah. Hi. Thank you for being here tonight. So we have a proclamation here. Casa de Esperanza Rape Prevention Intervention Coordinator, Deborah Linker-Lee. Casa de Esperanza has led the way in addressing sexual assault by providing services, responding to emergency calls, and offering support and comfort to those impacted by sexual assault. Staff and volunteers of sexual assault programs work year-round to support the survivors. Casa de Esperanza serves to improve the quality of service for those most profoundly and directly impacted by sexual violence. Casa de Esperanza requests public support to bring real hope for freeing our victims from the tragedy of sexual violence, to create a future where all women, men, and children can live free from violence and exploitation. Thank you. Now, thereby, be it resolved that I, Preet Didball, Mayor of City of Yuba City, and on behalf of the City Council, that we recognize the important work that has been done on sexual assault programs in cooperation with Casa de Esperanza, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2018 that no means no. Women and men working together can make a difference in the fight against sexual assault and gender violence in our community. Proclaimed today, the 17th day of July 2018. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank
I just want to say on behalf of CASA, I truly appreciate all of the support that we have got from you guys and the community, especially you, Manny.
Awesome. Next we have our Parks and Rec. Where'd he go? Why is he walking outwards? So we have Parks and Recreation Commission Chair Cindy, and we also have Vice Chair Erica Summers, who will be presenting a report and then accepting the proclamation. Yeah, get to work.
You have to
Where did he go?
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Good evening, council. Thank you so much for having us here today. First of all, on behalf of all the commissioners, Cindy Shatswell, Sharon Foote, Gary Hurlbut, and Bonnie Poland, I want to say thank you for your appointment and allowing us to serve the community in the capacity that we do. I really feel honored and happy that I get to contribute in that way. So thank you. So most of you know back in about 2015, Terra Buena was identified as an underserved area. And so the commission has been working over these actually last, what did you say, 3 years? 16, yeah, about since 2016 to work to get this underway. So they identified that Terra Buena was an underserved area. So after that, we met with the community and we did 3 community workshops. Oh, see, late 2015 to 2016. So it has been about 3 years. And we asked questions from the community and we let them give their feedback and input on where they would like a park, what they would like in a park, what the design would look like, and so forth. And through those meetings, the community, along with the commissioners, identified that the northwest end of the Harder Parkway would be the best area for our new park in the Terra Buena area. So since then, we applied for grant funding, which would be matched. Yeah, from the city, matched from the city. Our first was unsuccessful. However, just recently in just this month, we were notified that we were awarded $800,000 from Land and Water Conservation Funds. And so that's exciting, yay. We get to start our venture of this new park in the Terra Buena area, and its estimated completion date is 2020. I pushed the arrow. There we go. Oh, nope, that's the same one. Oh, there we go. Okay. And another thing we've been working on, the commission has been working on it, and I would say within the last year, we were a community member came to the commission and did a presentation on pickleball. Would like the commission to look into doing or having more pickleball in the area. They were really excited about it, and we were all in consent, and we supported them the whole time. So through this year, this is this is what it's going to look like. But the tennis courts at San Brandon Park we agreed to convert those into pickleball courts because they weren't being used as frequently. And so over the last year, it's actually become very popular. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it's become more and more popular with the community, which is super exciting. And so with support from the city and the Parks and Rec Foundation and the Rotary and Yuba City Unified and the actual pickleball club, we are venturing to reconstruct part of the tennis courts and to redo them, have them refinished and repainted to include just permanent pickleball courts now, which is super exciting. And I guess we'll put this out to bid in the next couple of weeks in terms of the redesign.
Okay, so this is just an overview of the grants that we have received in the last year. So recently we received $62,000. This grant was received for playground equipment, new playground equipment over at the Southside Park, and that has been completed. As we just told you, we're super excited about the $800,000 that we just received from Land and Water Conservation Funds, and that is for the Harder Parkway for the new park. We received $75,000 in Water Smart grant received for the irrigation systems, and $376,000 CAL FIRE Urban Forest grant received for tree planting, and $105,000 received for San Brandon tennis and pickleball courts, which, as you just heard, we'll get started on right away. Okay, and this is just a quick overview of all the volunteers that do all this work to make the city parks all fabulous and wonderful for everyone and their families. We have 320 total volunteers that do 6,676 total hours, and the cost saved through volunteering, a whopping $73,436. We're good like that. We save a lot of money. All right, any questions? Brad will be happy to answer them.
Put them on the spot. Any questions from council? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Is there any time frame as to when the pickleball courts are expected to be completed?
2020 is the
2020.
date we're looking for. But that's the park. Sorry, that's the park, right?
Sorry. See, we
October? October. That's why Brad's here.
October of 18?
This year.
All right. I like that. Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have a comment. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. This is fabulous. All the grant money that's coming in, the beautification of our parks, upgrading it with the equipment for kids, just a great job. And thank you for all your efforts and really making it happen.
Thank you. As Erica said, we're very happy to help with the community in that way.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, now you can come and get your proclamation.
Now we have to go back.
Brad, do you want to present? Are you sure? Yeah, earlier you walked right out. All right. So Parks and Rec Commissioners, we have Cindy Shatwell and Erica Summers. Cindy is our chair, and Erica is our vice chair. Parks and recreation programs are integral parts of our community throughout the country, including City of Yuba City. Parks and rec programs build healthy and active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease and also improve the mental and emotional health of all of our citizens. Parks and recreational areas are fundamental to the environment, well-being of our community, and crime reduction. And our parks and natural recreational areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for our children and our adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. So now, thereby be it resolved that I, Preet Didball, Mayor of City of Yuba City, and on behalf of our entire City Council, hereby proclaim that the month of July 2018 as the Parks and Recreational Month of City of Yuba City. I urge all residents to take advantage of our parks and recreational programs and get our students involved, our families involved and engaged. Thank you so much for all your efforts.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have our Downtown Business Association, who's going to give us a presentation on our summer stroll. So we have our chair, Sandy Drown, who will be presenting.
Good evening, Mrs. Mayor DeBille, Vice Mayor Harris, Councilman Buckman, Councilman Cardoza, and Councilman Cleveland, and our City Manager, Steve Kroger. I wanted to add that. My name is Sandy Drown, and I am here today on behalf of the Yuba City Downtown Business Association as a board member and as the event chair. We'd like to present the city with an award for appreciation for the partnership and being a key partner with the Yuba City Stroll. It takes a community to put an event together, and we appreciate our relationship with the city. I did hope that I could have a moment to recognize a couple of people that helped us significantly through the city. One would be Sergeant Slade and the City of Yuba City Police Department for helping us foster a safe event. Can you please stand up? Next would be, and just so you know, we did have a lot of our vendors say that our police department was very nice. So I'm sure that these other vendors go to other communities, and they mentioned that. So I was like, wow, we already knew that, but that's great that other people see that too. Also, Jim Tapp and Scott Chandler and the Public Works with assisting us with power, road closures, all of the necessities for the event to happen. So thank you. Also, Fire Marshal Jesse. Can you please stand? Oh, you already are.
He's already saying it.
People say, oops. People say that to me all the time, so I had to use it back. We wanted to thank you for helping us practice safety, go around and learn about the food vendors, and also just having you educate us on what we need to be doing in the future to make sure that we provide safe events for our community. So thank you. And I was going to thank Darren Gale, but he's not here today. No?
He's on vacation.
So Darren is on vacation, but to your left is Jim Tappy. Just if I don't know if you saw him
I
right
didn't see
there.
him,
So
sorry.
you mentioned him.
Thank
and
you.
Jim's our all-around go-to guy when it comes to things involving electricity that none of us
Wes,
want
you
to
were a
touch.
life-
So
You were a lifesaver. Thank you. Thank you very much. Would you like to stand up so we can applaud you, please?
Come on.
And speaking of Darren Gell, he actually was cruising around on his bike and he asked if we needed any help. And he actually is pretty handy. I don't know if you know, but if you ever need to hook up a hose, Darren's your guy. So thank you, Darren. And lastly, there was a quiet employee that I met. I was watching somebody just walk the streets and picking up trash, and he just looked like he owned his area. He was just picking it up and looked really nice. And so I run over to him and I'm like, I was going to thank him because I thought it was one of our volunteers, one of our block captains that we have. And as I went to go over to approach him, I noticed that he had a City of Yuba City shirt on. So of course I'm like, who sent you? I'm feeling like there's an angel in the room or in the, that appeared upon me. And, thought it was one of our volunteers, but it was actually Nick Smith. So Nick, would you please stand up? This gentleman, when I approached him, I asked him who had brought him in. He said, I'm here just to help, whatever I can do, ma'am. And he said it with such a genuine smile. He said he's here till 10. He let me have his number so I could harass him all night. We became best friends. But I just want to thank you because it was nice. All right. So with that, I just want to thank the downtown Yuba City Downtown Business Association would like to thank the City of Yuba City for being a key partner with us, and we'd like to present you with an award. You want to take it over there?
I guess. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Sandy. Next, we have our Sutter County Museum report. So we have the director, Jessica Haugen? Haugen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You were very close, though. Closer than most people get, so thanks. Is this thing on? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm not used to using a mic, so forgive me if I step away from it too far. Just wave at me and be like, hey, yeah, Tony, you're on it, right? Okay, good, I figured. So, my name's Jessica Haugen. I am the director curator of the Community Memorial Museum of Sutter County, which is way too long. I don't expect you to remember that. You can just think Sutter County Museum for now. So thank you for having me here tonight. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to give a presentation to all of you. I've been with the museum, it'll be 3 years next month, which has gone by in a flash. My predecessor worked there for 29 years. I am not making any guarantees that I'll last that long, but we'll see what happens, right? So I'm from Oregon originally. I have undergraduate degrees in anthropology and women's studies and a master's degree in museum studies, and I've worked in museums since early 2005. So this is what I do. It's what I love, and I'm going to say that we have a fantastic museum here. So how many of you guys have been to the museum? Raise your hands. Ooh, that's a much better percentage than I usually get. So thank you. Thank you. And for those of you who have never been, we're open every day but Monday. And we're just across the street. So no excuses. Get over there. So this one? Okay, fantastic. So although I'm sure everyone who's been to the museum is an expert on the museum already, I'm just going to give you a brief snapshot of the history of the museum so you know, because it surprises a lot of people. So our museum has actually been here and open since 1975 in the building we're in right now, right across Butte House Road. There was a small volunteer-run museum over in Carriage Square before the museum we have now. That was run by the Sutter County Historical Society, and they saw a bigger need for something more formal and more regularly supported. They talked with a lot of community members, and Howard and Norma Harder, who were peach farmers and had a cannery, they came forward and they said, yes, you're right. This is a very valuable thing. We need it for our community. They gave the initial funding and the land that we sit on to Sutter County, and they said, let's build this. So on your left there is a picture. You can't really see them, but it's Norma and Howard with a third person from the county shortly before the museum opened. So that picture's from mid-1975. And on the right, that is what the front of the museum looks like now. Very similar. So, briefly, the organization of the museum, we are a department of Sutter County. They pay for salaries and benefits for 2 full-time employees. 2 full-time, keep that number in mind when I get further in the presentation and you're astonished by how much we're doing over there. They pay for utilities, building maintenance, very basic business expenses, think your phone bill, internet bill, that sort of thing. We are fantastically well supported also by our nonprofit, the Museum Association. And it really is a partnership between the county and the association. We could not exist if one or the other discontinued the support of the museum. So I'm very glad that we have both of those to support us. So the Museum Association, they support basically everything that makes us a museum. So our temporary exhibits, upgrades to permanent exhibits, education programs, our gift shop, marketing, fundraising events, all of this is supported by the Museum Association. So like I said, we're very lucky to have them. And I'm going to embarrass Tony. Tony Curlin is currently the president of the Museum Association. Tony, stand up. I know you can't be embarrassed, but I thought I'd try anyways. Thank you, Tony, for what you've done for us. So we have a lot of things in the museum. Little and big. We have permanent exhibits on the Sutter Buttes, of course, because, you know, they're the Buttes. They figure so huge around here. The Nisenan-Maidu, those are the Native American peoples who lived here. John Sutter, of course. Can't talk about Sutter County without talking about John Sutter. The history of agriculture, our multicultural gallery, and early days in Yuba City. And those last two I'm going to go into just a tiny bit of detail. So the multicultural gallery we've had since around, well, I'll say a decade or so. It was my predecessor's brainchild, and what she wanted to do is make sure we were telling the story of everyone who lives in this area. Museums are sort of a Western European construct, and generally speaking, you tend to see the stories of the Western European settlers in them because of the construct of museums. And that's not right, and it's not fair, and that means you're not getting the whole story of the history of the area. So currently in that gallery, we have exhibits on the history of the Mexican-American people in the area, the Chinese-American, the Punjabi, the Japanese-American, and the Hmong population. And occasionally when I rattle that list off, people say, hang on a minute, some of those communities that you just listed are actually mostly in Yuba County, not as much in Sutter County. Which brings me to one of the most important things I like to say about the museum. That long name that I told you didn't have to remember, that is the museum's name, the first word in it is community. And that's the most important word in our name, not Sutter County. Staff at the museum, we think of ourselves really as the Yuba Sutter Museum, which really doesn't do it justice either. We're this community's museum. And we don't care that there's a river in between it. We don't care that there's county lines and people tell me all the time about the big little game and the history of the relationship between Yuba City and Marysville. We're here for everyone. So that's our goal. So if you guys have friends in Marysville and Yuba County, please tell them that too. Because we don't get as many visitors from that side of the river, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Our early days in Yuba City, I put that on our permanent exhibits. That covers a number of areas in the museum, and it's what I affectionately call our obligatory old stuff. It's the stuff you expect to see in the museum from the turn of the century. It's the Model T, it's the pictures of old schoolhouses throughout the region, those sorts of things. So that all is encompassed in that. We also do temporary exhibits. We try to do between 4 and 6 temporary exhibits every year. Some of those we create, some of those we rent from organizations that create them and then rent them out to whoever wants to borrow them in the museum world. Some of them come to us from other local entities. We just hosted one for Yuba College that they created to celebrate their 90th anniversary. So with all of our temporary exhibits, we try to make sure that we have a local or regional connection, so it is really appealing to our community, We cover a variety of topics to make sure that we are trying to have something interesting for everyone at least some of the time. And a personal inclination of mine is I like it when there's contemporary connections as well. So if we can relate the history to something happening right now, that makes it even more accessible for most of our community members. So the picture in this slide is an exhibit that we had last fall. Every fall we do a history-themed art show. It's another way just to broaden what we're offering to our community. And that particular exhibit was the National Park Service. We were celebrating their 100th anniversary, and it was local and regional artists that we included in that show. And then in this one, and Terrell just handily handed me a pointer and I didn't see how to use it. There we go. This one up here was a really phenomenal exhibit that we had at the beginning of this year called Tattooed and Tenacious, Inked Women in California's History. And I know some of you are thinking, hang on, tattoos in a museum, is that really? Yes. There's a long history of tattooing, not just in California, but across the world. And I was really excited to host an exhibit that really did help open our doors to a lot of new visitors. We had a huge number of first-time visitors in to see that exhibit. We also did 4 live tattooing demonstrations in the museum while we had that exhibit up, which also helped bring in a lot of new visitors. So we're really trying to broaden our audience, expand what we're offering. A few people in town, especially early on when I was here, told me that they had the idea that the museum was sort of an old ladies club. I don't want to have an old ladies club. I want to have a community resource that you all will feel comfortable and feel excited coming to visit. So that's what we're working towards. The exhibit on the top right here was a program that Yuba Sutter Arts did last year called Portraits of Veterans. We were one of the locations where they displayed the portraits for a while. We had that up Veterans Day through Thanksgiving last year. And the one on the bottom we had a little further back about a year and a half ago, and that was all about the gold rush. So that goes back to the idea of being one community. Although the gold rush didn't happen in Sutter County, obviously we were hugely influenced by the gold rush, and it happened just, up in the foothills. You really can't tell the story of Sutter County without talking about Yuba County and the foothills and the broader region. So we do a lot of educational programs at the museum as well. We've really been trying to increase what we offer here too, particularly our kids programs. And with the kids programs, we're not really going heavy on the education right now. What we're trying to do is teach kids that the museum is fun. So we're offering a monthly Night at the Museum program. We invite kids to wear their PJs, come in, hang out with us, eat pizza, and watch a movie in the museum. And they sort of soak in all the good museum-y stuff that's around them while we're watching the movie. We had West Coast Falconry come out and do a free flight program in the park behind the museum. We've had them twice now, actually, and that's always really popular. We've done storytelling off and on over the last few years, so we really offer a lot for kids. For adults, it's a little more of what you would expect. It's lectures, it's gallery talks, it's new book presentations. The picture that I put up under adult programs up there is actually from the exhibit that we have right now. Matika Wilbur is a Native American photographer, and she has made it her life's work to photograph all of the federally recognized tribes that still exist. And she has photographed people in California, and a couple of the photos in the exhibit are people in California. And the work is beautiful. We had her come out and talk about her project and what she's up to a couple of weeks ago, so that was really fantastic. Trees and Traditions. So I mentioned that the association does fundraisers for us. Trees and Traditions is our largest fundraiser every year. This will be the 39th year that we host Trees and Traditions, which is sort of astonishing, and it just keeps growing and keeps getting more popular. So Trees and Traditions is the best holiday party that you will go to. It's on December 1st this year, so mark your calendars. We've been making a lot of changes to that event too, so if you went a few years ago and weren't sure about it, give us another try. So I've been talking a lot about what we're up to now and what my ideas are about the museum. So here's where we really get into it. We are in a really fantastic period of growth and revitalization. We have been strategic planning. We've undergone some assessment programs. I'll get into that in a minute. The basis of all of it, though, the basis of everything we do is our mission statement. So this is our new mission statement that we identified during our strategic planning that we started last year. So it says, we share local stories to strengthen community bonds, to inspire celebration of our diverse cultural heritage, and to demonstrate how understanding the past prepares us for the future. So that mission statement guides everything that we do in the museum. Assessments. There are a whole host of programs out there for museums to really look at how they're doing business. Are they living up to the standards of the industry, et cetera? We went through 2 of those last year that we sort of timed to work out with our strategic planning. The first was an overall organizational assessment. The second was a look at how we're taking care of our collection. That's the artifacts and the photographs that we have. Both of them, I was really pleased with the results. We got great reports from both of them that we were able to work into our strategic plan. And here's our next slide, our strategic plan. This is a distillation of the top goals that we identified as we went through that process. And that process was staff of the museum, key volunteers, a committee made up of association members, and various people from the county were involved at certain levels as well. So basically it says we're gonna look at everything we do and reevaluate everything and make sure that we're being the best we can be for this community, that we are being the institution that this community deserves us to be. So I won't read through all of these because I think I've been talking for a long time already. Also part of our revitalization effort is we're looking at how we present ourselves to the community, so marketing and branding. We recently hired Brianna Struckmeyer, who used to work with the Chamber of Commerce, to help us write a marketing plan. We'll have that from her next month. I'm really excited to get going on that. In the meantime, we've been revamping our presence, so we created a new website for the museum last year, SutterCountyMuseum.org. There's the homepage there. There's our brochure on the right, so you can see we're trying to have a consistent look in what we're up to. We're also now offering an e-newsletter, so if any of you are out there going, how can I keep up with all this? You can go to that homepage and scroll to the bottom and sign up for the e-newsletter. It goes out once a month. This is a slide that I thought you all would be really interested to see. So our visitation at the museum has been going up over the last few years. In 2016, we had 6,800 visitors come through our door. In 2017, we had 7,800 visitors. And the first half of this year, we had over 5,100 visitors. So that's a pretty steep increase. I'm really thrilled by it. I would like to see those numbers continue to climb. The reason I thought that you guys would be so interested in these numbers is the percentages down below. So July through December of last year, 72.5% of our visitors were from within Yuba City. We started tracking in July of last year, so sorry I can't tell you before that. But and that percentage went up. The first half of this year, over 80% of our visitors were from in Yuba City. So although we say we're for the community, obviously we're not getting the word out well enough, particularly on the other side of the bridge. So that's where the marketing effort comes in. But we're doing a lot to serve the residents of Yuba City and the greater community. Partnerships. We have a lot of friends. We work with Yuba Sutter Arts. I mentioned the Portraits of Veterans program. We're working on some other things with them. The Sutter County Commission for Children and Families, and I always say that backwards. We've been hosting a number of ongoing children's programs for them, as well as a monthly caregiver cafe. So they've become a good partner, and they're actually sponsoring some of the things we're doing in our new community garden, which I'll talk about in a minute. The superintendent of schools, we've been working more closely with the curriculum coordinators to try to offer a lot more good content for the teachers to use. We've done programs with the library. Middle Mountain Interpretive Hikes is a great program for us to partner with. About half of their hikes every season actually meet in the museum. They utilize our exhibits to orient the hikers, so it's worked out really well. We have a gift shop too. So for all of you who are looking for the best place to shop in the area, come see us. We have a lot of books, local, regional, statewide, history, subjects related to exhibits we have in the museum. We also have a lot of children's books, and we tend to focus on the multicultural kids books that we can find. We also are carrying a lot of locally and made in California products. So like I said, come check us out. The gift shop's open every day. The museum is open, and we always have new stuff coming in. Those are a couple of examples of items made in California, 2 of them made right here in Yuba City that we have in the store. The community garden. This was a brand new addition for us. We just installed it this spring. It was the brainchild of two women who were born and raised here in Yuba City and wanted to give back, and they wanted to create a community garden. And one of them actually brought her kids to one of our Night at the Museum programs last summer and came to the property and had a great time and was like, oh, the museum, why aren't we doing the garden there? So we had a meeting, and you know how government works. It took us a little while to jump through all the county's hoops, but here we are, and it's been a really wonderful addition to the property. A lot of new people have been coming to engage with the garden. We've been doing a lot of kids programs in the garden. They're starting to experiment with adult programming in the garden, so it's been a really beneficial addition for us. The California Cultural and Historical Endowment Grant, another mouthful. They recently awarded us $73,000 so that our storage shelving, which is the picture on the left right now, will eventually look like the picture on the right. We're going to get to install high-density mobile shelving in our collection storage areas, which is really going to dramatically increase how much stuff we can fit in the space we already have, which is really exciting for me because we have over 20,000 artifacts and over 7,000 photographs that we take care of in the museum. So having proper access to those things will be very, very beneficial for us. And not just us, for the whole community. When we can access them better, people who come to us with research questions, or when we're planning an exhibit, or if another institution wants to borrow something for an exhibit, all of this will be more accessible for all of that. And we're looking at next spring to install our new shelving, which brings me to some other projects that we're hoping to do next spring. The original organization of the museum was very complicated, so I'll just describe it as there was money left over from the original construction of the museum that somehow still exists. So it can only be used to upgrade our facility, so I'm going to go ahead and upgrade our facility. So this is a list of what we are hoping to do next spring. It includes new flooring, new HVAC in our storage building, a host of smaller things, better signage, because how many of you have driven right by the museum and been like, oh, wait a minute, that was it. Right, I remember that's there. So lots of upcoming exciting projects. We're also working on a couple of our exhibits. So in the museum world, permanent exhibits should last for about 8 to 10 years before they get a good refresh, if not a full redo. Some of our exhibits are upwards of 30 years old at this point. So the one on the left, that's a snapshot, a close-up of part of our Native American exhibit that we have right now. We had an intern from the Masters in Public History program at Sac State who came to us last year. She has since interned at the Maidu Museum in Roseville, and she is going to be redoing this exhibit for us as her master's project. And an exhibit designer that I'm working with on a project we'll talk about in a minute has agreed to sort of mentor her through that progress, so she'll be working with him and with me, and it'll be done by the end of May next year. So I'm really thrilled to get to upgrade that. I'm sure some of you are thinking that picture on the right does not show anything having to do with our local African American community. That is showing that our agricultural gallery has sort of spilled over into our multicultural gallery. But next spring, when we do all of this building work, we're going to have a great opportunity to move some things around in the museum. So we're going to pull that out and get it back up in the ag wing where it belongs, which is going to create a nice amount of space in our multicultural gallery. So we'll be able to add some introductory information about the diversity of the area, and then it'll allow us to have space for our African American exhibit. And we just kicked off this process, so we're starting to research. We had an open house, which we invited the African American community to come in and meet us and talk about the project and what it might be, and that was well attended, so we're really excited to get that project going. But this is the one that I'm really excited to tell you about. This is our current exhibit on flooding in the area. And it's a little like 3.5 by 3 cubby that's tucked in between a couple of our other exhibits. Flooding is probably, at least in the 3 years I've lived here, it seems to me to be the biggest, scariest issue we're all going to have to deal with living in this region. This does not cover that adequately. So, thank you to the City of Yuba City. They gifted our nonprofit with $5,000 last year to begin the process of looking at what it would take to create a proper exhibit dedicated to the history of flooding in the area. And I'm really excited to say our exhibit designer, Brent Johnson, he was here for 2 days in May, and just over the weekend sent me some very initial first draft drawings of what he thinks our exhibit could maybe look like. So I intend to take out some of that obligatory old stuff that I mentioned earlier, because it gives us a lot of square footage to put this in. And I really think that our institution should be addressing issues like this. We should be talking about these really big picture issues that every member of our whole community will have to deal with sometime in their life. So these are first artistic impressions. What he's proposing is a layered effect utilizing quotes, interviews, photos. We have so much information in our collection in a variety of mediums about not just the 55 flood, that's the one we all think of first, but about all of the events that have happened over the years. And some of the lighter squares there will be monitors that will be able to have pictures fading in and out and have extra information on. And then this is another view of it where we could incorporate an oral history station and potentially incorporate information mapping of potential future events and things like that. So this is the sort of resource that I think the museum can and should be for this community, and this is the direction we're moving in. So I've talked for entirely too long, but that's where we're at. That's where we're going. If you guys have any questions, I would love to talk more.
Thank you, Jessica. We'll bring it back to the council for any comments or questions.
Just a real quick comment. Jessica, thank you for the work that you've done and your dedication to enhancing what is at our museum, our community museum. It is a remarkable effort that you've put forward, and exciting to see what the future will start to look like. And I also wanted to mention that in the past, I mean, the Harders were mentioned, but you know, two of the really steadfast people were Norman Lodell Piner,
Absolutely.
who really put a lot of effort in, also part of the Harder family, but they put a lot in, and just wish that they could be, you know, still involved on a everyday basis.
Yes, I agree with that. They moved away a few months after I got here, and so I know Lowell and Norm a little bit, and I do keep them updated. I send them regular packets from all of our monthly meetings, and they'll be getting a printout of this and just a little update on how the presentation went and everything. So they're
That's
still
great.
Involved in spirit.
Yeah, well, and thank you for keeping them in the loop and
course.
involved.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, questions? No? Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we're going to go ahead and go into our public hearings. We have a tax-exempt bond financing for Adventist Health System West. So we have a presentation from Spencer.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight I bring before you a tax-exempt bond financing by the California Statewide Communities Development Authority, the CSCDA, for Adventist Health System West to finance the acquisition of certain healthcare facilities located in Yuba City. Present tonight are Brendan LaFountain from Oric Harrington Sutcliffe, who is bond counsel to CSCDA, and Michael Mills, Director of Finance for Fremont Rideout, to help answer any questions about this item from TEFRA to CSCDA or Adventist Health from this slide forward. CSCDA is a joint powers authority with over 530 cities, counties, and districts to promote economic development and may issue tax-free bonds for nonprofits such as Adventist Health System West, while adhering to the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, or TEFRA. Further, Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1996 requires that the proposed financing be approved by a governmental unit having jurisdiction over the area in which the facility to be financed is located. Though a member of CSCDA, the Joint Exercise Powers Agreement provides that Yuba City is a separate public entity with no financial, legal, moral obligation, liability, or responsibility for the financing or repayment of the bonds. And the bond documents will state this clearly. So, again, Yuba City is not going to be financially responsible for these bonds. But because of the act, the TEFRA Act, it has to be brought before this council. These bonds are sought to fund and reimburse costs associated with construction of Adventist Health's corporate office in Roseville, to finance the acquisition of certain facilities and related assets of the Fremont Rideout Health Group, Rideout Memorial Hospital, and United ComServe. They also include some refinancing of other lines of credits and bonds. Staff's recommendation is 1, to conduct a public hearing under the requirements of TEFRA and the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, and adopt the resolution approving the issuance of 501c3 bonds by the California Statewide Communities Development Authority. And at this time, I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Spencer. You had a lot of acronyms there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll bring it back to council for any questions for Spencer before we go ahead and do a public hearing. Any questions? No? Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, as a point of clarification, I sit on the board of our local Adventist health group. And so just as a point of clarification that I wasn't involved in the matter of putting this item for recommendation before you. I refrained from that, and so I will continue. I have no financial interest. I don't get any economic benefit from sitting on that board. It's purely for community service. But with regard to any engagement, I haven't had any to date, and I will refrain from further comment this evening. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. All right, so with that being said, we will go ahead and open to the public for any comments at this time. The public hearing for the proposed tax exempt bond financing for Adventist Health System West is now open. If any of our members from the public wish to speak or address the council on this issue, may go ahead and step to the podium. Nope. All right. We will now close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Move staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a
Second.
okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Great, thank you. Thanks, Spencer. Okay, our next public hearing is a consideration of an appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of the use permit numbers 18-03 and 18-04 filed by a neighbor of the project. The site is located on the western half of the Carriage Square Shopping Center. So at this time, we'll go ahead and have a report by Arnaldo Rodriguez.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Arnaldo Rodriguez, Development Services Department. The item before you this evening is consideration of an appeal filed for two use permits. The reason that staff combined the two use permits into one staff report is because the two projects are located on one piece of property, and for all purposes, including pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, we had to consider the project as one project. So it's multiple actions. However, again, it's one project. So that's the reason why it's all included in one staff report. So just for background purposes, this is a consideration of an appeal. This project was initially considered by the Planning Commission on June the 25th, a couple of weeks ago, and it's part of the it's proposing to redevelop a portion or the western half of the Carriage Square Shopping Center. So the site itself, it's about 3 3/4 of an acre. It's located, it's sandwiched between Bridge Street on the north, Weiler on the south, Highway 99 to the west. Immediately to the east is a portion of the Carriage Square Shopping Center, which is not being proposed for redevelopment at this time. And then you have Lawrence Avenue to the west of that. A couple of key things that we'll be going over through this evening is that there's currently a street that's commonly referred to as Pelora Avenue that traverses the property. It largely bisects the piece of property. However, that is private property. It's not a public street. And staff and the Planning Commission have indicated no desire to convert the private property into a street. And I'll provide a little bit of background there. So prior to the Planning Commission meeting on June the 25th, the Planning Commission had previously considered this project at the tail end of 2017. At the time, it was simply a parcel map to subdivide the property. At that Planning Commission meeting, there was extensive discussion or dialogue regarding the status of Pelora. After a couple of hours of discussing the item, the Planning Commission determined that that they were okay with keeping the property private. Staff did not recommend that the applicant dedicate a street. And however, the Planning Commission did put a condition on the property that a vehicle and pedestrian, both ingress and egress, be maintained to Weiler Avenue. So because of that, the applicant is proposing to maintain that, and quite frankly, staff is recommending that we maintain that access point to Weiler Avenue from the south side of the property. So just a very quick summary, staff received a verbal appeal from a nearby neighbor. I'm going to try to provide a summary of the items that they noted in their appeal. However, the appellant is here this evening, and she can definitely speak in terms of any items that she has. But again, this is my understanding of the items of concern: traffic, the lack of sidewalk specifically to the south, the status of North Pelora Avenue. Again, is it a public road versus a private drive aisle? And then the public notification process. So just a quick summary. Here's an aerial photo of the site. The buildings on the western side of the road, if you go out to the property right now, they're demolished, so the site is cleared. This aerial photo was taken at about 2 years ago. The buildings on the east side are proposed to remain as part of this project. You have Weiler Avenue to the south, you have Bridge Street to the north, and you have Highway 99 that makes up the western boundary. Historically, there were 5 access points to the property. There were 3 off of Bridge Street, 2 specifically for the Shell gas station, which has since been demolished, and it's being redeveloped right now with the 2-story Bank of Feather River headquarters. There was an access point off of Lawrence Avenue along the northern boundary, and then there was a 5th access point along Weiler to the south, which is identified there on the bottom of the screen. That, the arrow is highlighting the historic drive aisle that, again, it did largely resemble a street with angled parking off of it, but again, that is private property. The city does not have ownership of that. We spent a considerable amount of time, both staff did, the applicant, and their engineer, trying to ensure that again was never deeded to the city. It's never been maintained as a public road. The city has never expended any public funds to maintain that as a road. So again, it's private property. A quick overview of the project: there's a total of 3 buildings being proposed on the site, not including the bank. The bank would be the 4th building. Of that, there are 2 drive-throughs. The primary reason why this project is a use permit, or the use permits, it's plural, is because of the drive-throughs. If the drive-throughs were not included, it would not be a discretionary action. Rather, the project would be considered at a staff level. Total, including the bank site and including the existing shopping center, 236 parking spaces are proposed, which is consistent or complies with the local ordinance. And the applicant is also proposing to consolidate the drive approaches along Bridge Street. So again, there's currently 3 drive approaches. 2 of them would be removed. So there would be 1 principal drive approach. For the most part, we're lines up with, well, again, which a lot of people refer to as Pelora along Bridge Street. So here's the site. The green building, and I apologize, it doesn't come out extremely clear, but the green building here, that's the existing building that's going to remain. The yellow on the northwest corner is the bank, which is under construction. The red boundary identifies the property line. The 2 purple buildings identify where the 2 drive-throughs are going to be at, or are proposed. And then the southernmost building there along Weiler, that would be the 4th building. The 4th building is proposed as a retail space. They are proposing a restaurant in half of it. However, that part is not proposed for a drive-through. So again, the 2 drive-through buildings are at the center of the property in purple. In terms of access points, the site itself would provide a right in and a right out from Bridge Street. It currently provides a left into the site off of Bridge Street. That left would remain. However, the applicant acknowledges that at any time that could potentially close, and that's largely at the discretion of Caltrans. There is a proposed exit onto Lawrence Avenue from this site, and then the site itself, again, at the request of the Planning Commission, there is an ingress and egress to be maintained to Weiler Avenue. However, that access point is proposed to shift to the west a little bit, and I have another slide that highlights that. So, the overview here provides an excellent overview in terms of what the site with mature landscaping would look like. The 2 drive-throughs, again, here's one on the south, the one to the north. The purple diagram there, or the hot purple square there, represents what would allow for stacking of vehicles in the drive-through should the drive-throughs hypothetically overflow. I know there's been concerns about drive-through stacking in our community. Whenever drive-throughs come in for staff review, those are things that we take a look at. We absolutely have to ensure that we do not have vehicles queuing onto public roadways, potentially creating a traffic hazard. The site itself, the two drive-throughs, would provide portico shares, and they would also provide half-wall fence combinations comparable to a lot of the other drive-throughs in the community to soften the appearance of a drive-through, and also to screen the headlights from vehicles both in the drive-through from oncoming traffic, especially as traffic is traveling northbound, and then also vice versa. So the red arrow provides a good example. Here's Weiler Avenue as where it exists. So Weiler right now currently goes north-south, and again, it's being proposed to be shifted to the west. The primary reason for that is for traffic calming. It's to slow down traffic. There was a lot of discussion at staff level in conjunction with the fire department at the planning commission, and it was concluded that the most appropriate place would be to shift it to the west. And again, that's simply for traffic calming measures to ensure that vehicles are not racing through, treating it, again, it's going to be a private parking lot and not treating it as though it's a public street. So in terms of the aesthetics of the building, it has a contemporary appearance. This is one of the proposed buildings. The building does provide plane breaks. It provides different building materials. Again, the portico share, and it provides a half wall for the outdoor dining. This is one of the two buildings. So as you're traveling along Highway 99, this is one of the buildings. What's not included on here is the landscaping, and the site would provide landscaping as well. This is for vehicles traveling northbound. So the slide should read northbound, not north side. This is actually the south side of the building, but as people are driving northbound, that's, if you look into the shopping center, that's the appearance of the building. The second building, again, from Highway 99 in terms of aesthetics, that would be the northern, or the top building there, plane breaks, different building materials. So staff spent a considerable amount of time with the applicant and their project architect to make sure that we worked out the small details in terms of lighting, aesthetics, ensuring that we had plane breaks to make an aesthetically pleasing building. So as people are coming into our community, it's that it looks good. In terms of traffic, at staff's request, the applicant did commission a traffic impact study. That traffic impact study was provided in your report. The study itself was initially completed in December of 2017. However, staff requested that they do an addendum to that traffic study. That was completed on May 2018. Staff shared that study with Caltrans, and Caltrans reviewed it, and they were in agreement with the conclusions of the study. As part of the study, 9 different intersections were studied, going down from Franklin Avenue all the way to Bridge Street, and a couple of the intersections along Gray Street. A couple of things that the study assessed. It assessed near-term impacts, longer-term impacts, and then credit was also given for the buildings that were demolished. So again, the buildings that were there, those were credited against the new buildings that are being proposed because they were for retail use. So the short-term impacts, new traffic will be generated in comparison to what historically was there. However, with that being said, those impacts are not considered significant. While we would acknowledge that there are existing roadways that currently do not meet adopted city standards, new projects cannot be expected to mitigate existing issues. Projects pursuant to CEQA can only mitigate to pre-project conditions. So again, while Bridge Street and Highway 99 is currently today, it's at a lower standard than adopted city standards, this project itself, although it'll exacerbate it, we cannot expect the applicant to mitigate to, again, the existing issues that exist today. Overall, the increase is not considered significant by adopted city standards. However, there is mitigation to ensure that does not occur. The longer-term impacts, The bank has dedicated, if I recall, I think 4 feet to widen Bridge Street. There is a condition, it's a mitigation for phase 5 of the Bridge Street project. The mitigation itself would be the applicant would be contributing their fair share portion to mitigate impacts to the intersection of Bridge and Lawrence. The remaining intersection, specifically Gray and Weiler Avenue, the mitigation would equate to probably less than $200. So out of all the new traffic specific to the intersection of Gray and Weiler Avenue, it would probably be less than $200. It's going to take staff time a considerable amount more to make that exact determination, but some of the rough numbers that we estimated, again, it's probably less than $200. And then the applicant would be participating as part of the city's development impact fee program to pay their fair share in terms of new construction. So in terms of Bridge Street, because again, there is a mitigation measure for phase 5, just to highlight some of the Bridge Street improvements, we have phase 1 of Bridge Street, which again is on Shasta or it's on Bridge between Plumas and Shasta. That phase is completed. We had phase 2, which is Plumas down to Cooper. That phase is completed. We have phase 3, which is being developed right now. That would be the new bridge. We have phase 4, which the city has begun to purchase the property and has been demolishing the homes on the north side of Bridge between Cooper and Gray. And then we have ultimately phase 5, which would be from Gray to Highway 99. So again, as part of this project, the applicant is going to be contributing their fair share for the impacts to Bridge and Lawrence Avenue, which would ultimately be part of the Phase 5 Bridge Street Enhancement Program. So as part of the addendum, one of staff's concerns is, well, what happens to the local roadways? We studied the intersections, but what happens to the local roads? And so we asked the applicant to examine, or their traffic engineer to examine 5 roadways, Lawrence, Barrett, B, Weiler, and Pelora Avenue, going all the way down to Franklin Avenue. In terms of significant impacts, or not significant, but in terms of impacts, the study came back and concluded that the applicant should make improvements on the south side of Weiler Avenue to widen the shoulder between Pelora and Lawrence. And in terms of everything else, the roadways are of a capacity, or do have excess capacity to accommodate the traffic that's expected to be generated as part of this project. And in terms of Bridge Street, the applicant's going to be improving sidewalks along Bridge Street within the boundaries of their project. One of the other items that the appellant had noticed was the public noticing process. The public noticing process is outlined in state law. There's a mail notice that's required to surrounding property owners, and then there's a local notice within the local newspaper. So the parcel's identified in red, right in there, and everything in yellow are the properties that we notified. State law mandates that we notify people within 300 feet. Just to give you an idea, the black arrow there is about what you would typically notice at about a 300-foot buffer. So it would capture about the 4th home to the east on Weiler Avenue. And if anyone's from that area, it's about the mid-block of that home, or about the midpoint of that home. Staff sent notices to people as far as 1,100 feet. So one of the things we did is we took a look at the potential impacts, the roadways, and we said, well, what would be reasonable and how many people should we notice? So we went above and beyond your standard typical public noticing requirements, which is identified there in the pink. So the appeal, just to kind of recap a couple of items. One of them, again, was the status of Pelora. Pelora Avenue is it's private property, not a public street. The applicant will be required to make some improvements to Weiler, and again, there's also mitigation included for the intersection of Bridge and Barrett. And then the public noticing, which identified, staff went above and beyond the state laws. In terms of mitigation, just to recap a couple of items. In terms of the California Environmental Quality Act, which is what governs how environmental assessments are prepared in the state, any solution that's identified should be roughly proportional to the project and to the impacts of the project. And again, projects can only be expected to mitigate to pre-project conditions, not to resolve existing items or existing issues in the community. And traffic is a very good example of that in a lot of cases. Staff did prepare an environmental assessment. We made a determination that that a mitigated negative declaration was appropriate because there are mitigation measures, and those mitigation measures were incorporated into the project conditions of approval. So with that being said, staff's recommendation this evening would be to affirm the commission's approval of the environmental assessment, which again does include the mitigation measures, and then to adopt two resolutions, both denying the appeal and approving the two use permits. So with that being said, I apologize if I spoke fast. I know there's a lot of other items on the agenda this evening, but staff's prepared to answer any questions, and the applicant, his team's here, as well as the traffic engineer. Oh.
Turned it off because I was moving paper around. So the public hearing is now open as far as any of the public member who wishes to come up and speak regarding this project. I do have a couple of written requests. So Pamela Thompson, Pamela, you put in a written request, so you got 5 minutes. So if you go to the podium and state your name and address, Pamela.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Thompson. I live at 1200 Weiler Road, which is outlined on the map here. Let's see. Next one over. Yes. I reside at 1200 Weiler Road, and this construction that's going to take place is going to impact my street and my property. Our home is adjacent to the proposed Carriage Square Shopping Center project. This center proposes 2 drive-through food businesses with plans to funnel or direct exiting traffic down Weiler Road, pass by my front door, and driveway property entrance. I learned something tonight that there is not going to be a road in the development, so all the traffic is going to be coming out in front of my house. The congestion and vehicle exhaust would be disruptive and damaging to our community and public health. Currently, Weiler Road is a small, quiet, children-friendly residential community with minimal traffic patterns. We see the impact of congestion and backup of cars entering the Antonio's Quick Lunch drive-thru and how it backs up traffic on Colusa Highway. Weiler Road is a single-lane road, not a 3-lane highway. This type of vehicle backup and exhaust congestion is unacceptable in our small residential community. Specifically, here are my concerns, or our concerns, of those who are here tonight. With the proposed development, has the city done a study of the current traffic patterns in our community and proposed increased traffic levels? What are those levels? All I see in the report is that it's not significant. Concern number 2, with the proposed development, what type of street improvements are proposed for our street, Weiler Road, to address the increased traffic, soundproof wall barriers, repaving Weiler Road, etc.? Is this report available? With the proposed development, what environmental impacts will this new traffic pattern have on our community, i.e., vehicle exhaust, traffic speeds, noise, loitering? Is this report available? What I have read so far is that it's been ruled not significant. With this proposed development, Weiler Road residents have children in our community. What traffic safeguards have been proposed to address this matter? Is this report available? with a proposed development on a privately owned street, what law, regulation, or code allows a private citizen's investment aspirations to impact a public residential community without some input or some type of compensation or allowance? Our street, our homes, our community will have to deal with the increased traffic, the increased noise. Our housing values will slump. Property values will slump. Noise, safety issues are very important to us. But because of a private citizen's investment aspirations and profit, we as the citizens on Weiler Road have no input. In closing, with concerns stated above, we request a delay in your decision to accept the recommendations of the City of Yuba City staff report, items A through D. Allow us, the impacted Weiler Road residents, the opportunity to meet with Planning Commission and the City of Yuba City to discuss our concerns regarding increased traffic patterns, increased vehicle exhaust health impacts, street improvements to handle the new traffic patterns, and addressing sound and noise issues associated with increased traffic. Our suggestion is do not funnel or direct the Carriage Square Shopping Center development traffic onto Weiler Road. Reroute it, redesign the flow of increased traffic patterns. We're asking for a delay in making a decision on this recommendation at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Next, we have Samuel Thompson. Samuel, if you'll state your name and address when you get to the podium, please, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Did you say 3 or 5?
3.
Oh. Okay, I'm just playing with you.
I'm like, Pamela had the written request.
That's fine. My name is Samuel Thompson. I live at 1200 Weiler Road. I'm excited about the development. I am personally associated with the developer in terms of how he has helped support our church in my endeavors to live in this community. Kurt Hilber, he is a friend. And I want the development. I have a business less than a quarter mile called Porky's Barbecue, best barbecue in town. And I know that the added traffic is going to have an advantage to my business. But I'm also a residential proposed client of this area. I do not want to see traffic from 11 to 10 at night going up and down my street. I've lived there since 1997, since the flood. I would ask, in addition with my wife, that another option be looked at to control the flow of traffic coming out of the proposed drive-throughs. That street is only 2 blocks long, roughly 2.5 blocks long, from Pelora to Gray Avenue. So if it becomes a thoroughfare for all of the drive-through traffic, you're not going to get much rest, and you're not going to get away from the noise, and you're not going to get away from the exhaust. You're not going to get away from the intensity that will be brought about by drive-throughs. As I said, I'm in favor of the development. I would like to see another way of getting through coming out of the drive-throughs. And I really don't know why, if that private road, if the buildings are set back far enough, that the drive-through could come around and go right out Pelora, right onto Gray Avenue, pretty much like they do at Carl's Jr. It's a small drive-through, but it lets you right out onto Bridge. And so my concern is that another approach be looked at the Planning Commission, take a little bit more time and rethink about how the traffic can be diverted. Now, in the conclusion of my speech, if no other route is available, then I would propose that speed bumps be constructed every 5 feet. And I'm serious. So they have an option if my proposal and our proposal is not adhered to. Like I said, I'm very much in favor of development, and I'm excited about what's going on in Yuba City. But I think we have to take the residents of Weiler under consideration. And while we're up here, I would like to ask the supervisors to take a walk down Weiler Road. I have been to the planning department for 5 years to repave it, to put gutters in, to put sidewalks in, and the only thing they've come out to do was put rock down. And we pay property tax almost $3,000 a year for our home. So thank you for this time. Remember, every 5 feet.
Thank you, Samuel. Next we have Cassandra Ruiz. Cassandra, if you can state your name and address for the record as well. And you'll have 3 minutes as well.
Good evening to the great city of Yuba City council members. My name is Cassandra. I live at 1220 Weiler Road, Yuba City, California. I am concerned for the condition of Weiler Road and Pelora. At this very time, this very moment, senior citizens and people with disabilities are making their way through this mess and are forced off the sidewalk onto the street on Pelora, where the sidewalk just abruptly ends. On Weiler, where there also is no sidewalk, with this proposed change, the street traffic will increase due to the drive-through exiting out onto Weiler Road, where we have a high volume of foot traffic due to a lot of people living in the apartments on B Street, single-family owned grocery stores up and down Pelora Avenue. We are also concerned about our children, animals, elderly, with the increase of carbon dioxide and lead from the vehicles going through our neighborhood due to the drive-through proposed by the planning division, the developer, builder, architect, owner. Number 5, concern for the rainy season. When it floods on the corner of Weiler and Pelora Avenue, when it floods on the corner of Weiler and Pelora, excuse me, I need a... I'm trying to do this fast so I can get my
It's
3
okay.
minutes.
Just take a deep breath. It's fine. No
Okay.
problem.
The concern for the rating sensor when it floods on the corner of Weiler and Pelora Avenue. Still haven't seen the street swept on the side of Pelora. There still is a mountain of dirt blocking the gutter, which I brought to the Planning Commission's attention on the meeting we had on June 27th, 2018. One of the gentlemen that worked for the city said he would have a street sweeper out there the next day. Still have not seen no streets of the street being swept. No signs of the street being swept. Also concerned about the asbestos poisoning in the groundwater. Can we please see results for that? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, city council members of the great city of Yuba City.
Thank you.
And I also had one other thing.
No problem. We still got a little bit of time.
Okay.
Don't worry.
With Habit Burger, I actually went down there to Sacramento, went to their plaza. It was very beautiful. They did not have a drive-through. It was a little promenade, and it had a Habitat Burger and a Panda Express in a nice building. I don't know if anybody else has been there. And Habitat Burger is made to order, just to let everybody know. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any more speaker cards, but it's the public hearing is still open, so anybody who wishes to speak, go ahead and go to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Terry Conda. I haven't done this before, so bear with me. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy I got notified in time that I was here. I guess I ignored that first notice that was sent out to the Weiler residents. I'm one of them. So, besides Pam and Sam and the other young lady that just spoke, I'm also right next to Lawrence and on Weiler. And I have a complaint about this also. Right now, just after them blocking off Pelora and Bridge Street just so they can start doing the construction work, we're getting an increase in traffic on Weiler Road. And it's bad, okay? We do have a lot of children well, not a lot. We do have some children, young children, that live on this road. It is a one-lane road, like Pam mentioned. And there's several custom-built homes, very old homes, on the south side of the Weiler Road. And actually, I think they're on both sides. But anyway, I'm concerned about the traffic. I'm concerned about the exhaust. I'm concerned about everything else that everybody mentioned before I got up here. And I understand and I realize what Sam was saying as far as detouring or making some changes. And I know that the Planning Commission has probably spent a lot of money, architectures and everything else to get this figured out. But if they can just wait, let us figure out a little bit more. We are also taxpayers. I actually would consider proposing possibly making Weiler Road a cul-de-sac. At the east, the west side of Weiler, not the one on Gray Avenue. That way, you would still have some traffic on Lawrence. You'd still have Pelora. Just cut it off. If that's a private road, just cut our little road off. Make it a little cul-de-sac. We'd be safe. Our children would be safe. I've lived here for 18 years. I'd appreciate it if this would be considered, and I would love to come back and talk to anybody else about it in the future. I do still work in this town. I live in this town, and I still pay my taxes. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, go ahead and go to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Carl Emerson. I am a resident on North Lawrence Avenue in Yuba City. I've lived there since 1972. This long house right here is my house. And I've been to these meetings before in the past, over 20 years ago. I went with my neighbor, Rich Valentini. He lives right here. We requested at that time a street light for our street. We never saw anything. We wanted to get it repaved at that time. It never happens. The increased traffic has happened. Since this has been blocked off, this has become a drag strip from here to here. Cars, they do kick up a lot of dust because I just recently had this house painted in March. And it's dusty already from the traffic. This is my lawn. Oh, I don't know how to do that.
Welcome to technology.
Well, this, I'm an old part, but this right here is my lawn, and I commonly pick up pavement from North Lawrence Avenue because this is also a thoroughfare for tractor trailers that come up and down. Now over here is an Italian restaurant. And over here is Carriage Square. The reason I'm bringing up the restaurants is because I'm the guy who picks up the garbage. Every time there's a north wind blowing, I get to fill my blue toter up with other people's garbage blowing from across the street, Carriage Square, and that side. Well, also, along with the litter, is the flooding in the wintertime down here. This whole road backs up and it's just one big river. So my friend and I, every year we take our shovels and our rakes and we go down and clean out that drain. Now we all pay taxes, but so why are we doing it? But so if this stuff goes in, what else can we expect as residences here as fallout from this project that was not ever considered in the way of traffic? So yeah, I'd like to see some speed bumps down here too, but that requires pavement, which I've lived here for over 50 years now, and I'd like to see that. Anyway, there's a lot of smoke that comes from those restaurants. And I'm already getting smoked out from Porky's over here whenever they fire up. Inside our house, lock everything up, and put on our ventilation system. So I certainly don't want to see any more of that. So if I had stuff to say, yeah, I would reroute a lot of stuff. So I hope you guys have listened to me, and I am the senior, so thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. Okay, Sam and Pam, quit smoking him out. Anybody else who would like to speak? Sure. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mike Sharp, and I live at 636 North Barrett. And I know that we have been talking about North Lawrence, and we've been talking about Weiler. However, North Barrett, during high traffic times during the day, is a shortcut to get around the intersection of Bridge Street and Gray. Numerous days. I've lived, first of all, I should tell you, I've lived there since November of 2008.
Mike?
I used to live on Weiler Way.
Mike? Mike,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, not to interrupt. Can you point where you are?
Oh, I'm
right
sorry.
now? Just so I have a reference to where you are.
Bottom? Okay. I live right here.
Okay, thank you.
I used to live right there. Excuse me. Again, North Barrett, no street lights, like the gentleman talked about on North Lawrence. No speed bumps. People are using this street to cut through to get to Gray Avenue to miss the intersection over here, Bridge Street and Gray, or they're using it to get back over to Highway 99 without that intersection going down Pelora into Franklin. My concern is, again, more traffic coming in front of my house at all hours of the day and night now, because we're going to be using this street along with North Lawrence. This is going to become more heavily traffic. And I agree that the proposals should be a cul-de-sac here to slow down this traffic. And I too would like to see some speed bumps on all of these streets, and along with some street lighting. And that's basically all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Chris Raffanan. I live at 1165 Wiley Road. Right here. This house has been in my wife's family since 1956. Belonged to Moose Mallory, who was Yuba City Electric back in the 60s and 70s. Raised 5 kids in this house and a grandson now. The traffic that comes down my road, I'm out front yelling at them every night to slow down, almost getting in fights. I have a yellow guy out in front of my house on a cone with, his hand up saying, "Slow down, please." Because ever since this has been cut off, my kids don't play out in the street no more. They don't go out front, they don't ride their bikes. I caught somebody the other day going 60 miles an hour down my road, and he probably was going faster than that. And you can watch my video cameras and watch him. 60 miles an hour down Wiley Road. Something's got to be done, because it's going to get worse. And I'm probably going to end up going to jail for getting in a fight out there in that street.
Chris, let's not do that.
I won't, but it's my kids, so people are going too fast. And I think the picture you have up there is the last time I seen anybody fill the potholes out there, because I did it this summer. Yeah. So I'm all for development. I'm a project manager with Clean Right, Build Right. I built a building catty corner to you that Arnaldo loves. And I'm all for this building. I'm for improvement. So do the right thing and improve our street for the safety of my kids. Thank you.
Anybody else who would like to speak? No? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the council for questions, comments, concerns. We were open to the public hearing, yes. No, absolutely. We're going to go ahead and reopen public hearing. Go ahead and state your name and address for record, please.
Hello, I'm Scott Gibson. I'm the architect. My address is 2540 Zanella Way, Chico, California. Architect here. Last time I was before the City Council was in 1987 for the Feather Down Shopping Center. So familiar with this city, been working here for many, many years. Done a lot of projects here. And I know that change for community is always difficult. I remember when we did the Feathers Down Shopping Center that there was quite a bit of discussion about it, and about the type of land use that was there, and there was quite a bit of public discussion about it, and a lot of people didn't like the change, and sometimes projects do take a while to understand the change. I think like the Feather Down Shopping Center, this will be a very high quality project. definitely we'll start, we're definitely working to try to address all the issues. But I think one of the main points that we need to talk about is that Polera Road has been there for 50 or 60 years. It's always been there. It's always been dumping traffic out onto Weiler Road, and that hasn't changed. In fact, what we're trying to do now is slow down that traffic and calm it and make it where people don't want to go that way, and try to cut off that cross traffic up the bridge or from bridge down south. So I think there's some good things that this project's going to do. Things that are off-site aren't necessarily in our control. And it sounds like there's quite a few issues that the city needs to address with their traffic and their road conditions and their drainage and stuff that really isn't fair or appropriate to saddle on this project. I think they're all very, very valid issues. I mean, it sounds like there's a real problem down there. I think the first thing, maybe have the police show up down there to start watching these people that are speeding down through there and not get the public citizenry in there doing traffic control. That's very unfortunate. But as Arnaldo had mentioned, that a project can't be held responsible to fix all the existing problems in the city, especially when they're several blocks away. In some cases, are not a part of this project. But one thing we are doing is we are improving and putting a new curb sidewalk in on the south side of our property, which is the north side of Weiler. And there will be, as a young lady had requested, that we are going to create a great access way that's accessible, that meets all the ADA standards for accessibility, and will greatly improve that road that doesn't have it now. So that's something that will help out a lot. I know that was one of the issues that came up, and I think it's really important. But what our project is trying to do is really to calm the traffic and slow it down, because there has been a problem on Polera with people speeding through there, and that's exactly why we've made the changes to the project to try to calm the traffic down and slow it down. This is really something we think will be a betterment in the community, and I think it will, rather than hurt the property values, actually raise the property values, because the project that there before wasn't a very nice project, and this is going to be a great project, and we're going to have great neighbors, and there's going to be a lot of more eyes on from a security standpoint, from better lighting, and it's going to improve the project greatly and improve the area greatly. And I think that what we see in a lot of these things is that an improvement in property values, not a decrease in property values. We have great tenants. They're all national tenants. They are tenants that take pride in their businesses, and they're great neighbors, and they are also greatly involved in the community. So that's something that that we try to do. But just a point of fact, we actually have now less square footage than what Carriage Square. So from an impact standpoint of businesses, we actually have less square footage there. Smaller businesses. We actually have a lot more open space now than what we had before, because that was really that Western style building was really a wall of buildings along the street. It'll create more visibility in the site, and we also think help reduce crime, because you'll be able to see through the project from both 99 and internally in the project, and be able to have better visibility to things. As far as smoke goes, all these tenants are national tenants. They're not. The only tenant I can think of that creates a lot of smoke is Burger King. They are just ridiculous. They create a ton of smoke. Looks like the building's on fire. But all these tenants won't be creating a huge amount of smoke, and in fact, they take great care of scrubbing their exhausts and making sure that it's they're not a detriment to the community. But I'm here to answer any questions. I think Arnaldo did a terrific job on describing the project, and the buildings are very handsome. They have very rich materials and colors and finishes, and unfortunately, the renderings kind of got washed out on the presentation here, but the actual presentation is much richer, and the buildings are very handsome. But anyway, happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Actually, you'll have to come back to the podium. Yes, only because we record everything, so it does not pick up, and.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Gibson, so I have a couple questions for you. When was the previous building, when was the last tenancy that was in that building?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I can't answer that question.
It's been decreasing in tenancy as they've looked at different projects for that. Am I correct?
Well, I think the landlord has been removing some of the tenants to try to be able to do, have this opportunity to develop.
Do you
a
know
project.
what type of businesses were in there previously when it was?
Well, I know many years ago, there was a scuba shop there that I went to back in the late 80s. I think, I can't remember what all the different types of shops are, but a lot of community businesses, it seemed like. I couldn't tell you in recent years, but back in the late 80s, early 90s.
So there was a barber shop, there was a restaurant, there was a business that handled property management in there. There were businesses.
Internet service, Sticks was there.
Yeah, the internet service was on the south end.
Interior design, churches, pool halls.
I don't recall a pool hall in there at that location. Further down the street, I remember one. But the reason that I bring this up, Mr. Gibson, is for you to say that there was traffic, always going to be traffic. I think it's a little disingenuous to say that, because this is a change. Even though there was a restaurant, it was a sit-down restaurant, we do have more vehicle traffic that will be in there. That's the whole intent. That's why there are national companies coming in, is because they see that what the potential traffic will be. Bridge Street will change. It will eventually be handling a very high load of vehicles with the change to the bridge structures in town. We do hope that Bridge Street would carry the majority of the load to that, but we're also restricted in many ways because the entrance and exit that is proposed is within 250 feet of the California State Highway right-of-way, and we have very little to say about what that will look like now and into the future, because it all has to be approved by Caltrans, and you're probably aware of that.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm looking at is just kind of an answer. What's the vehicle load? I don't even know what the numbers are.
Well, we have our traffic engineer here who could probably speak better to that. But I could say that there's definitely some changes. The project is changing greatly. I mean, there was a different type of project. A gas station does have quite a bit of vehicle traffic coming in and out of it, and probably going off in different directions. That we have a bank use, which is much lower load. What is different? I think Ken Anderson, who is our traffic engineer, who is in the audience tonight, may be able to come up and speak to that fact. But the daytime use occasions, I mean, we do have intensities at the lunch hours and probably the evening hours at dinner times for the different restaurants. But there are other businesses have different daylight loads when these businesses aren't going to be busy. Like none of the businesses we are proposing, I believe, have any breakfasts. So there's no breakfast business. So there won't be any morning traffic. It's not like a Starbucks, which seems to have traffic 24 hours a day. There will only be maybe from 11 to 2 pretty heavy, traffic. I can't speak for the exact demographics of each of these tenants, and then afternoon traffic. But these other businesses would provide traffic all day long. So it's different numbers and different types of traffic, and it's just part of the change. And it's part of the change this happens on a type of project like this. And I think we've taken great care to it. One of the questions was about speed bumps. Unfortunately, the fire department will not allow speed bumps in a commercial property project, and that was something we heard from the city engineer vis-a-vis the fire marshal. So, but maybe it's
wait, step back. The fire department won't allow what?
Speed bumps.
Where?
In the parking lot. That was per the city engineer.
The street.
They were talking about a street, but
well, I'm talking about our project. I can't speak to the streets that aren't part of our project.
We have commercial properties right now with speed bumps in them. Mm-hmm. I'll go to Rayleigh's.
You might want to talk to Ben Moody then about that.
I don't need to talk to anybody about that, okay?
I'm just stating what he said in the planning commission meeting.
That's fine. But we do have, on commercial properties, we do have speed bumps. They're present. They're present now. And speed bumps aren't a deterrent in a lot of ways to traffic calming. So I'm not a big proponent of them. What they do is typically create a little bit more problem, noise and other things, and acceleration points prior to and after, and there's all kinds of things that the speed bumps create. You came up, and one of the things that you said was related to the traffic is that the police need to take care of it. They need to be more present. Mr. Gibson, I spent 32 years as a police officer. Mr. Gibson, I spent 20 years dedicated to traffic enforcement in this city. I know a little bit about the resistance of drivers. I know what they will tolerate, what they won't tolerate, that they will look for the path of least resistance in many ways. And it's not the police department's job to go in and fix where a traffic load creates from a change in traffic patterns. Traffic patterns develop over time. You can take a look at the pictures up here, and if you look at the intersection of Highway 99 and Bridge Street, you will see that vehicles, those black lines that you see in there, those are traffic patterns. Nobody deviates from those. It's the way that traffic moves. So to come in and then try to change what that looks like, there's resistance to that.
Well, I apologize for that statement. I was just hearing what the citizenry was saying, and it's a temporary situation with the site blocked off now. It's unfortunate that one of your residents has to yell and get mad at traffic, and that's all I was trying to say.
Well, no, and
I please don't take offense to it.
Yeah, I don't want to see Chris go to jail, get locked up. I heard somebody, when he said he was going to go to jail, somebody applauded, but that was his next door neighbor, so. Yeah, it might have been one of the other drivers. But we're gonna try to find a solution. Obviously, the folks that live there would like to see the project go through. You have Sam who throws up the smoke screen every day. Oh, yeah. And he makes Mr. Emerson irritated with his garbage that floats his way. But we're going to work out through all these little nuances in this neighborhood. But this is a small neighborhood. It's old. It's an older neighborhood. It's been there for since. Yeah, it was post. Some of it was post flood, and some of it's pre flood. So, but that has built up over time, and there's been a little bit of rebuild to it. And yeah, have the streets deteriorated in that area? I'm going to answer that yes. Why? Because there hasn't been a tremendous load of traffic on them, and they haven't taken the I guess the public eye to continually say, hey, there's a problem with those streets. So I just wanted to set the record straight that I don't want to give the citizens and the residents near this project some type of idea that things can't be done a certain way, or that the police are going to fix it. Because I think it's important that we need to look at a solution to bring this project forward, but yet make sure that we ensure that neighborhood safety is paramount to the project itself.
Well, and basically where I was trying to go with this was that existing deficiencies in the city infrastructure, i.e. surrounding road structures and systems, and new projects are not expected to mitigate all those existing conditions, and that's really all I was trying to get to. And there seemed to be a number of issues on these streets that have been left, and we definitely feel for the community here, because it's not something, but it's also something that is not fair to make this center fix all those problems.
And I would agree with you, as you've stated and has been stated by Mr. Rodriguez, who represents the city in this, is one of those, some of the issues that are coming up. There is mitigation that can be done, and we will try to work through that tonight. There are things that on site you've done that I think are amazing with the project. Moving the traffic patterns within there, I think is great. The stacking, making sure that we have queue stacking for the vehicles, it's great. Again, we'll work through it, and I appreciate what you're saying, but I guess, you know.
I didn't mean to offend anybody. I certainly just trying
Well,
to.
and I don't want to put false hope in anybody's mind that the police are going to be out.
Well,
the one cop that was in the back has already left, so, uh-oh.
Oh, no,
Now-
we got.
Now we have
more.
cops
Yeah,
standing in the
yeah.
back, so.
And we have our K-9 too.
Uh-oh. Got the dog with
Is there
him.
a side entrance out of here?
There is, right over here.
But any further questions that we can try to answer? Hopefully I don't. Would it be helpful to have the traffic engineer say, answer a few questions?
Do we have any questions? No? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we had reopened the public hearing, and we're going to go ahead and close it back and bring it back to council for further discussion. Comments? Yeah.
Arnaldo, or perhaps whoever may be able to answer, was there any consideration given to the idea of the cul-de-sac that you're aware of?
To my knowledge, we did not have discussions regarding a cul-de-sac. One of the challenges with cul-de-sac is you need space.
Right.
And then also, whenever you introduce a cul-de-sac into an existing neighborhood, it doesn't necessarily diminish the vehicle trips being generated on the site. Rather, what it does is simply redistributes them through the neighborhood. So right now, why some of those drivers may be traveling on Weiler Avenue, if you introduce a cul-de-sac, the same people that live in that neighborhood will have to funnel either northbound or southbound to simply get into the shopping center. So there's pros and cons. At the staff level, we did not discuss potentially cul-de-sacking Weiler Avenue.
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry, thank you, on Weiler Road.
All right, thank you. While I've got the floor here, the way I view it here, we're talking about the project, everything within that red line. And they have several things that we've done, the sidewalk on the south side of the property, and adding to widening and paving the south side of Weiler Road, which is outside of that red line. They've done a lot of due diligence. I love the idea, as Councilman Buckland said, of diverting traffic up to the left and that improvement that will slow folks from going down. It appears it has been severely affected, or from folks who live there, since it's been blocked off, people bypassing and everything. I don't want to see anybody go to jail, but more importantly, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. Can't do anything about the porky smoke, though. I like it myself. But one thing, we're talking about the red line, inside the red line, but one thing, we've got everybody in the room here, and it's going to be a good thing, because moving forward, we can talk to Marcello's about their trash. We can talk about other stuff. Okay. And maybe think of some ways, to address these very, very, very valid and serious concerns you folks have that live there. I appreciate the input. We all do. Yeah. However, for our purposes here today, we're concerned about that red line. The project itself, I think perhaps it might be appropriate to address the issues, address them timely and seriously, but not necessarily under the umbrella of this project.
Because now you're adding more businesses.
Agreed.
Businesses do not typically pick up after themselves. It becomes the residents' problems. At the end of Lawrence, there's a section that goes into a fence. All that garbage blows right down Lawrence.
Yeah, right.
Into the holding area.
Right. Which, again, that does not fall under the purview of this project that we're here to address right now. But what I'm saying is what you're bringing up is very valid, and we hear you. All right? I think it's important that you know that, because we do take it seriously. However, our purposes here today is to consider this project. But I want to make it a point that we hear you. All right? All right.
I had a question, since the other council members don't have anything. My concern with the traffic would be also, we talked about the congestion that just takes place throughout the day, but my concern would be down that street. We also have the high school, and the restaurants that are going to come through, those are very demanding by our high school students, and Yuba City High allows students to go off campus for lunch. My concern would be that traffic, especially with teenage drivers coming down through a residential street, to come and hit the drive-through and get back to campus on time. So have we looked at mitigation for that traffic issue during those concerns? And that's a lot of students coming through.
I'm going to defer to the traffic engineer, Ken Anderson, who I think is probably the best person equipped to directly respond to that, if that's okay, Mayor.
It's right down the street, yeah.
Master the microphone. For the record, Ken Anderson with KD Anderson and Associates. The direct answer to your question is no, we hadn't contemplated the traffic back and forth from the high school. To the extent that traffic is oriented to the east, you know, it's easy to get in off a bridge and go back that way. The bigger issue in terms of how we affect the neighborhood is traffic going to the west. So from that standpoint, and I believe the flow to and from the high school will wind up being manageable in that regard. But no, we don't have any analytics about that.
Okay. I'm sorry, but that's something that I disagree with, only because the high school is directly east, and it's straight down that street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a direct shot to that carriage square.
Understood.
So I have huge concerns about that. Also being the lunch hour, so if we have small kids in this neighborhood that are out there, that's also the time when preschools are coming out, kindergartens are coming out, so parents are coming back home with small kids at the same time. And if we have a flow of high school students who are driving down, and that street is a straight shot from the high school all the way down. And actually their parking lot for the high school is on that street as well from the high school. So they don't even have to come around the campus. It's their parking lot exits right there. So my concern would be that traffic as well. So if we haven't looked at that, I strongly suggest that we back up and take some mitigation on that end as well.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
From what I can see, yeah, I don't need them, is that there are two major concerns or issues going on here, and one issue which is directly related to the project itself being the approval or the challenge to the project itself, and then the Yuba City dealing directly with the concerns that smaller community has had for quite a long time. And finding a way to at least start to mitigate for some of those items. Some of the items that were brought up are like lighting. Well, you're going to have to create a lighting district for you guys, for the residents there to be able to finance, putting lights in there, the meter for the lighting district, and that'd have to be voted on by the community there to put it in, and then you get an assessment to maintain that. There are many lighting, in fact, we're going to be coming up on some lighting districts, and well, wait a minute, those got removed for this week. And there are many little small lighting districts all over the city where residents got together and said, we want lights on our streets and stuff. Well, they voted to have a lighting district, and then they get their lights because then now it's going to be serving them, so they end up paying for the lighting district. That's just, you know, the way the city works and stuff. And then also, another problem with the gutter drainage and sidewalks is that area, the taxes were never collected, the fees were never collected for creating those gutters and sidewalks. I'm not saying the road itself, but the gutters and sidewalks specifically were never included into the development portion of that area. It was more like a county rural section that was developed, and so it's still that way. And so those are things that the residents themselves would be responsible for getting an assessment for that going from county to urban style of living. So that's just the way it works also. I've lived in a home where I ended up with a big assessment on my taxes where it ended up getting all new gutter, sidewalks, drainage and stuff. So I know the pain that it takes to, financial, that it takes to do that. It was significant because I had a corner that was huge, and so I ended up paying quite a bit. But in the long run, it turned out to be a good thing for the area. So there are many different things that need to be dealt with to get the improvements that are being requested. And there's going to be skin in the game from the city and from the residents to make that happen. Sometimes we can get grants to help with some of that in certain areas of the community, and then other areas that there are no grants available of any kind to be able to assist. So there's a complication there. So to get, some of the improvements you have, it's going to be yourselves picking up yourselves by the bootstraps and helping to get that done. There's not much that the city can do for that without your help. The other point I wanted to make is that there is a precedence in Yuba City for doing not a cul-de-sac, but blocking that off until improvements can be in the future made when developments and redevelopments are done in that area, because there are still many undeveloped parcels in that area on Polara, or need to be redeveloped or would like to be in the future. Even Carriage Square having more redevelopment there, tearing down in the future. But there is a precedence on Bridge Street all the way down where, I can't remember the name of the road where it is, all the way down at the end of Bridge Street where they blocked that off when the residents said, there's just too much traffic here, it's dangerous. And so there is a precedence for the city to do that. Harding, thank you. I'd forgotten that's the Harding where it goes on through. And I had friends that lived 2 houses down from that, and I wasn't on the council or in government at the time, but it was just them talking as friends. So we do have precedence for doing that for at least a temporary length of time until development moves on to a different level. So there are, I think, phases to this and steps to this of what can and can't be done at this time. But I don't think it should hold up the development. Somehow we need to get the development moving forward and then make a commitment as a council to move forward with this in our staff to move forward with either temporarily blocking it off to make it, people not racing through. That will also keep the degrading of your road going down for things. So for me, that's the quick fix. Please. I'll let you speak in a moment. But that would be the quick fix. But we have to have a commitment to, from both groups, to actually do what it takes to raise it to the urban level of lighting and curbs, gutters, sidewalks, drainage, because it's not going to be a small penny to get there. I've experienced it, so I know what it takes. But if that's what you want, we can start the path to get there with this. But I still don't think that the project should be held up. We just need to now separate them and do what we can initially to calm it down and then move forward on the next steps. That's all I can see at this time for me. So,
it wouldn't do no good putting that barrier up because they're still exiting out onto Weiler currently, and they're exiting. If someone hit the gas a little too much, they would hit my driveway. They would hit my vehicles. I live right on the corner of 1220 Weiler.
you're the corner lot?
Yeah, I'm the corner lot. And so that driveway exits right out into our driveway.
What?
It's moving west. Well, if he was talking about putting that barrier up now. If we put a cul-de-sac on that.
No.
Madam Mayor?
Well,
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
You might be misunderstanding where.
Hold on.
Just a point of order. When we have discussion from the audience, they should go
Need to come up to the podium, yeah.
So, go ahead.
So one point of clarification, Mayor, council members. So Mrs. Reese's home is this corner one right here. The driveway location is roughly the new access point's about
So it will
right
not be.
there.
It will not be.
Talking about the current one. The current
That's going to be gone.
Oh, okay.
That's gone.
Okay.
Stan.
Correct. The existing drive location is going to be removed. It's going to be relocated to the west.
If you have to come up to the podium if you wish to talk, so we're not going to do this discussion back and forth.
Through the mayor. I've got a couple of questions, and while Mr. Rodriguez is up there, As this project moves forward, what's the anticipated time to bring the businesses on and be operational?
I'm going to look at the applicant approximately 6 months. Is that a safe assessment? So 6 to 9 months.
Thank you. So there are a couple things, and Pamela Thompson, I appreciate your comments that you made. A very nice presentation. Some of your the comments that you made and the existing problems, like at Antonio's out onto Highway 20, that was an existing business, and that had an existing drive-through, and it has had for, I don't know, 25 years, something like that. Unfortunately, a rather popular restaurant located in there, almost as popular as Porky's, but it located in there and has created a problem. And now how do you fix that? And part of that is that's Caltrans right of way. That Highway 20 is not under the jurisdiction of Yuba City when it comes to what we can do with that roadway. We have to go through Caltrans for that. Part of the same issue that we have with this map, where you see the 3 arrows, 2 coming in and 1 going out, that's Caltrans. They're the ones that we're within 250 feet of the intersection of Highway 99. So they're regulating what can be done there to certain standards, and it's well within their little book of knowledge that they have that's about that thick over at Caltrans. Speed bumps, I'll tell you straight up, they're not the answer on a public roadway. They are a point of acceleration in advance and a point of acceleration after you leave them. If someone hits them rather hard, you don't want speed bumps in front of your house, because all you're going to hear all night long is poor suspension on cars and cars driving down onto the speed bump and destroying themselves as they go 60 miles an hour down your road. All of the other infrastructure that y'all talked about, I think that Councilmember Cleveland, I think addressed that appropriately. There is one of my concerns is that Weiler is a narrow roadway, and I think that we have to take that into consideration. But given the phase in which these will be coming on and in the building, that gives us some time to work through some traffic issues where we can come back and have direction to how we can maybe solve that. It's not going to be inexpensive for the city. We would have to find the money to do it, and that's going to be one of the issues that will be at hand, is how can we do it, and how can we do it at a reasonable level, because this is not something that falls on the development itself to take care of that existing problem on your street or those roads. Clearly, it is not their responsibility. But we do need to work through it. We need to make sure, no matter what happens, if this project were not to go through tonight, there will be another project. The gateway into the downtown of Yuba City will be through the Bridge Street corridor. That is the reason the Bank of Feather River located their new headquarters there. It's going to be a remarkable entry point into the downtown area of Yuba City, and it's going to carry more vehicles. We would hope that traffic patterns develop through the process to utilize Bridge Street and not the side streets. I can't carry on a conversation with you. There is an issue that has been brought up, and as we looked at the maps with Yuba City High School traffic, and we would have to work through that to make sure that we're moving traffic that would be coming there for their 40-minute lunch, I think it is.
I think so.
Where if they're going to be in line for 10 minutes, then they get held up, and then they're speeding back towards the high school, and that's always a continual problem that we have in our community. So we'll work through the issues. From my estimation, there's nothing so paramount here that we can't get through these and keep the neighborhood feel that you currently have, minus all the speeding vehicles, out of the mix.
Okay. Pam?
Thank you. I guess my main question is, if there was a road in the development prior, a road straight through, Pelora went straight through from Bridge Street to Franklin. Yes. Yes. Yes.
No, there wasn't.
Private access way.
Okay, maybe it's a street. Maybe.
No, let me go back. I'm going to step back into history.
Okay.
There are people who lived in this town far longer than I have. What you see in the picture was an improvement that was made in about 1980 something. That was a very narrow little alley that kind of ran through there, and it has always been marked north and south on that parcel where vehicles pass through.
Mm-hmm.
This is private property restricted to use for the Carriage Square complex.
Mm-hmm.
Vehicles, there were some notices that you could be arrested for trespassing at times. They were very strict and very responsive to that being maintained as their property for that complex. Always has been, as long as I've lived here, and I've been in this town since 1970. So.
And I've been here since '93, and that road, or whatever you want to call it, had always been a throughway.
Lot. It's a parking lot.
And on both sides, there were businesses, and there was a road in the center.
The parking lot.
A parking lot.
And people use it as a street.
Okay, so what you're saying is because it's not classified as a road, then the new development that's going to go into place, they're not required to continue that path.
It's going to be a part of the parking
And
lot.
that's where the issue is.
They could build a building right in the
center.
middle of it if they wanted to. There is nothing that stops them from utilizing their entire property other than permitting. They can utilize that property any way that they would like.
And for the traffic to spill out of their development onto our roads, that's acceptable?
Normal. That's normal.
That's an
That is the way it is. All over the city.
That's the road.
Businesses
neighborhoods?
spill out in driveways all over the place. How do they get into the businesses? How do they get out of the businesses? It's not spilling onto the roads.
I guess my concern is the fact that this is a very small residential community, and it's now going to incorporate a large shopping center. This is not like
always been
Bel
there.
Air. This is not like Rayleigh's.
always
This is
been
very
there.
small.
Restaurants.
That was my concern. It's just a very small community.
Well, again, the architect, when Mr. Gibson was up there and I was speaking about it, that was a two-story complex. It had a lot of traffic in and out of there all the time. There were various uses of that property, always has been. You might have seen at 9 o'clock at night, very few vehicles in there, but there were restaurants and everything else when it was fully populated. And it has been there for a long time. In fact, the Hatchers, weren't they right in their area? They had a restaurant in there. Hitching Post.
Right.
There you go. It took me a while to get that one dug out of the cobwebs.
Thank you.
Cassandra?
Okay, I do have a question. Okay, in the proposed plan for Section 5 of Bridge Street, they're going to be putting a medium up in the middle of Bridge Street, on Bridge Street, and I heard on Franklin. So that is going to affect us in the future. For everybody, if they're coming down Bridge Street and they want to come to the plaza, well, they're not going to be able to make a left-hand turn off of Bridge Street. That's what I'm to understand. They're coming down Bridge Street from the new bridge, the new development area on Bridge Street.
Yep.
I don't.
Ben is coming.
I was just concerned, you know, because it's like, how are they going to make that turn?
Those are two different things going on.
We're,
So that doesn't have anything to do with the project. But Ben, can you address that the phase 5? I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you can just explain a
definitely.
little bit. So,
I'd like to just comment the Public Works and Planning. This is not something we take lightly. We've looked at this project. We've been working through it almost a year to try to figure out a good fit for this project, how to make it work. Because it's a redevelopment, and how do you fit new standards into an existing site. And so with that, we really took a hard look at some of the mitigation measures. I just want to call out is right here. We're going to widen that section there, kind of where there's a taper, so when they come off the highway, they could get out of that travel lane and then come down. We're going to widen the south side, so not even on the property owner's thing, but in order to kind of help alleviate that issue with the narrowness of Weiler, we're going to widen that about 4 to 5 feet, so it allows for parking on the north and then 2 full travel lanes, and then the sidewalk along there. There's an actual sidewalk will be there to the corner. They're going to put a new sidewalk, curb and gutter through here. And then this is going to be changed to a one way out, where it's an exit. So the vehicles, when they get in here and are working on the drive-throughs, without a straight shot down, the intent is to help push them up this way and then push them out through there to keep them going through the neighborhood. And so to address another mitigation measure is that with that traffic going out to Lawrence and some of the additional traffic, in the addendum report, I believe, Ken, it was around, we really pushed on them to try to find out what that impact was going to be. And it talked about 20 to 30 trips during the peak hour in the afternoon, because the AM lunch wasn't really, the AM breakfast wasn't really an issue. It was really that PM hour. And so and then there's different amount of cars as suggested from just how they're getting diverted, how they're coming through B Street. So we do recognize that there will be more cars, but at the same time, there's existing use that was zoned that way, and there was credit for the amount of those cars, and then we're trying to mitigate it as much as possible on how to handle those cars. With Bridge Street, the final phase is going to it's not designed at this point. There's discussion that it's going to look very similar to the east between Cooper and Plumas, where there'll be a median across this section of Lawrence to prevent that left turn out. Most likely with the future expectation of travel, Bridge Street need to be 2 lanes in each direction. This westbound left to south will most likely be terminated, and then going north out of Lawrence, this left will be terminated just because of the flow of traffic, and so cars will have to come out of here and go right. And so that will impact the traffic. She mentioned Franklin. I think that might be a reference to, in the traffic study, they're talked about due to the volumes in the future. There'll be a pork chop, kind of a right in, right out at Pelora and Franklin, the potential pork chop, because of the traffic volumes, and the percentage was very low. I think it was like 0.1%, 0.3%. I don't have the exact number, but this project impacts to that, so it didn't facilitate this project, the requirement to put it in at this point.
thank you, Ben.
Through the mayor, and Ben, if he could just go ahead and stay
Oh,
for
Ben,
a second.
don't move.
It's fun having you up there, Ben. So making it perfectly clear, there is no design or traffic pattern design outside the 250 feet that Caltrans is going to pretty much regulate on us on Bridge Street itself. There's nothing on phase 5 yet that's on paper, am I correct?
Correct.
So one of my suggestions is going to be, when we get to phase 5, that we look at phase 5A and phase 5B, because there's going to be an opportunity for people to change some traffic patterns in there. And meaning that at some point we may be turning and completely shutting off to make that traffic flow smoothly through there, some of the left-hand turns. onto streets like North Lawrence or Barrett, just for the mere fact that they're close to other intersections, and you're trying to limit the left-hand opportunities that would be going in and out of there. So they'd be utilizing back street flow, Weiler up into their own neighborhoods, and then being able to exit out different directions. So it will change it. And those will give some opportunities to calm these neighborhoods down. That's phase 5, folks. We don't even have the money for it. So know that we're looking at it because it's part of the greater project, but that will also help, I think, in those neighborhoods in the future.
Agreed.
Thank you, Ben. You'll have to go up to
You
the
have to
podium,
go to the podium.
please.
While he's going up there, I did want to mention something else. One of the, go ahead, while you're going up. While the improvements to the roads that you're requesting and the paving and the widening and all that stuff, there are unintended consequences to that. When a neighborhood that has some traffic tendencies for diverting is improved to a high level, what happens? It becomes even more of a freeway. People drive even faster because now they have nice, pretty little road to race up and down. And that's some of the things that happen. So when the improvements do have in areas that have this type of rerouting that people like to go through to avoid traffic. So that is something that would have mitigations for that are going to have to be considered in the future too, as the improvements are made on Weiler and Lawrence and stuff like that. So there will be that new problem coming up as soon as it's improved. Look at the highways. We fix them and make them nice. Instead of them going 65, they're doing 90 because, it's comfortable to drive 90 now. Same thing happens in the city. I've noticed that in every single neighborhood we've done these improvements. All of a sudden we're getting calls, they're driving 60 in a 35. And so we're going to have a lot of adjustments to make in the city as these changes are made.
Thank you. Carl?
Okay. You done?
Yeah.
My question is as it comes out on the bridge, the median strip that goes down bridge on the new Bridge Street, will that prevent people from coming out left, taking a left turn out?
We don't have any plans yet, but that's when we start putting it down on paper, those could be considerations into the plan. So,
because I'll tell you, the traffic's increased so bad now that it's very hard to get out on that street now.
Right.
There's so much cars coming down that, and I worked in the Bay Area for 25 years, and I know what traffic's like. And I'll tell you what, when I lived here in 66, there was no problem with traffic. But this now backs up on both ends, from 99 to Gray.
We completely understand that. From the 60s to now, obviously our population has grown. So our future plans are to improve Bridge Street. We just don't have that phase written down yet, but we will look at those dividers, left turns, right turns, and so forth. That's part of the plan for the future.
Well, that's all I had. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Through the mayor, and for consideration for beginning some mitigation on this on the city's part without great expense, possibly located for northbound on Pelora at B Street, that we begin marking that as no through traffic at that location, turning traffic more towards B Street if they're looking to get over to Gray Avenue. I think pre-marking that might reduce some of it and get all the through traffic moving down a more improved roadway. It will have an impact on B Street, but I think that notification in advance of that and post B Street may take care of part of that problem.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Motions? Further discussion?
I'd make motion to approve staff's recommendation, and that we do a mitigation effort as part of that on Pelora Avenue at B Street with an attempt to divert traffic onto B itself.
I'll second that and just, basically try to figure out a way, continue conversation and start working seriously on, hopefully one of the major things will at least be a temporary blocking off in some way. So we get people to change their patterns and they'll get used to that. So hopefully that will be, and that's not part of the motion. It's just, basically the motion is to go with the staff's recommendation.
We have a
As he
motion.
said.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have, why don't we do roll call on this one?
Councilmember Buckland,
Yes.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Yes.
Councilmember Cardoza,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
and Mayor Didball.
Yes.
Keep going.
All right. So, project is to move forward with, as stated, with medications to be worked out.
Absolutely.
All right, next on our public hearing are actually items 7 and 8. It looks like everybody's departing. So for items 7 and 8 on our public hearing, the public hearing regarding levy assessments for Yuba City lighting and landscape maintenance districts will be continued to August 21st. Can you step outside to have your conversation? Thank you. As indicated, landscape maintenance districts will be continued to the August 21st, 2018 council meeting. This continuance will allow the city to give proper notice of an intention in order to comply with Street and Highway Code, Section 22626. So with that being said, we will move on to, do we need to take a vote on that? Or
No,
we just go
you're
ahead?
fine just to
Okay.
continue it, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. For public communication, you are all welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on the items listed on the agenda when they are called. Public comment on items not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Comments that are controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select a representative to express the opinions of the group. We do at this time have some written requests. I have Bill Stevenson. Yes. If you can go to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Bill Stevenson. My place of business is at 459.5 Pelora Avenue here in Yuba City. And the issue that we're coming here today about is the homeless and the trash that comes with them. And it's been a major thing this year. They're tearing down our fences to get into our back end of our properties, leaving their trash. It's just astronomical what we're having to put up with down there. And it's all the way from Weiler clear down to Franklin, getting in behind the properties. I've called Caltrans to get out and fix their fence. They have not done that yet today. And so I don't know what we could do, but we got to have something resolved. So I don't know if there's any help that you people can give us, but we're going to lose business down that way if we don't get this stopped. And we got some good businesses down there. I just had New York Life come in the place, spend about $15,000 remodeling up the place to have a good place for business. And if they'd have known what was happening, they probably wouldn't have come. We've had businesses, or 2 offices there vacant for over 2 years because of what we're finding out is happening there. And I've been up and down that street since 1970. So I've seen a lot of changes in this area.
Okay.
So I'd really appreciate that we get some kind of a committee going and see if it don't do any good for the police. They come out there, bust their buns to get something done. Whatever happens, the next day they're back on the street. So that's not the answer. We got to find a place for them. Get them out of there. Their two main draws is, number one, place to slip, the laundromat there, and the Circle K. So, you know, it's out of hand. And that's all we ask as the merchants down there, to give us some help. Get rid of them out of the area. I don't know how you're going to do it, but it's got to be done. So it's in your guys' hands now if we can get something going. Okay. This is one of the owners there at 440 Pelora.
Yeah, my name is Surinder Sharma, and I'm one of the owner at Pelora Avenue. It's not they just leave the litter there. They like urine on the corners, and the middle of the night they bang the doors and cause the alarm to go off. And I've been paying, to the police department for the false alarming. Now, instead of letting my alarm company to call the police, in the middle of the night, I have to go there and see everything is okay. And sometimes, if I see somebody there, they try to fight with me. And then they have stolen my cameras. Even last night, 12:08, they painted the back camera. Numerous times they have done that. So they are causing a lot of damages to the building. And write the graffitis in the back wall there also. This is going on repeatedly. I appreciate the police. They come on and they ask them to leave, and they leave their trash behind. Those cart full of the trash left there. If somebody gets a chance, they've been there for days, and we have to pay to remove them. And then I have to pay attention all the time to the camera while I'm working. Who is in the back causing problem? And they talk loud, and sometimes they shoot drugs there. I see them smoking drugs most of the time. And they sometimes, they get naked there. A lot of problems going on there. And police remove one, set of people, then the next day the other one is there. And then the new faces are there. And this is going on for days. And now it has gone out of hand. That's why we had to come here. Somebody has to, figure this out, how to solve this issue. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Sharma.
One more thing. At my office building where I'm at, here about 5 years ago, I got a call. Someone bashed all 3 windows in my office. Just this Monday morning at 5:30, someone broke their window down there at this new beauty salon. And the owner spent about $50,000, completely painted the place. About 5 years ago, we put in an all new blacktop, made the place look beautiful, and then the next thing you know, we got this problem. And it's not cheap to maintain your property, plus keep your people there is trying to make a business go. I don't know if you can help us, but we do need help.
Thank you very much.
Through the mayor, and I realize this is not an agendized item, and I'm not going to try to make it one. I'm just going to suggest that staff or police department may look at installing one of our portable camera systems down in that immediate area so that we can have surveillance of that on a continual basis and record the activity so we can come up with pattern and then try to get these folks moved to the proper resources.
We can certainly do that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't have any other written requests, but appearances of interest as citizens may go ahead and address the city council on items of interest that are within the city's jurisdiction.
Excuse me, Mayor. There
Yes.
was one other written request. Mr. Edbug. No, he's not here. Oh, sorry.
No, Madam Clerk is right there. Ed Bavacqua, the president of the Rotary Club. I excused myself for a moment because he left.
Okay.
He had a $1,000 check to present to the city. Hopefully, he's still interested in presenting it, related to sponsoring children at Gaucher Aquatic Park.
Okay.
And so it was a nice feel-good moment that I think the evening just got a little long. And so
Okay.
we'll arrange for another time to come have him present.
Can we send Gunner?
Mr. Eiler, do you want to?
Can we send Gunner out to go get Mr. Bavacqua really quick? And
Mr.
it's a hot trail. Let's see what he does.
Mr. Eiler was. Okay. Oh, okay. You were the one that wrote in. Okay.
All right, well, thank you for that. So we do, for appearance of interested citizens, members may address the city council on items of interest that are within the city's jurisdiction. Individuals addressing general comments are encouraged to limit their statements to 3 minutes. We do have a couple of cards here. Kristen Lambert? Oh, okay. Go ahead and come on to the podium. State your name and address for the record, please.
Well, thank you first and foremost for allowing me to be up here and addressing you. My name is Kristen Lambert. I live at 148 Harding Road in Yuba City. I was born and raised here, but I moved away to Boise, Idaho for 10 years. I got brought back here. I have family that have been here for generations and generations. I do reside on Harding Road. It's off of Franklin. You take a left. I'm 3 houses in. We are having a tremendous amount of traffic that are going at high speeds that have been clocked at probably 80 miles an hour once you get down to the end, which I'm sure you guys all know that that house at the end has been smashed in 5 times, 2 times within the last month, I believe. So I have also a neighbor statement that asked me to address since he could not be here. He said, "My name is Charlie Benson. I have lived at 374 Harding Road in Yuba City for the past 16 years. I would like to address a matter of grave concern for our neighborhood. I have witnessed at least 2 crashes into the home at the end of the Harding and Cherry. The first was nearly 5 years ago. It was 1 a.m. I was going to pick up my daughter at a party. I witnessed a truck racing down the street and saw it hit the home. I made the 911 call. I witnessed a young man jogging down Harding Road after the accident, which obviously he left the scene after he stole his father's truck and ran it through the home, coming close to killing several persons who were sleeping in the living room. The last time it happened was June 25th. That was just recently, 11 p.m. He said he was going to bed and a vehicle raced down the street about 70 miles per hour. He knew it was going to hit the house, so he stepped out, he called 911 and saw it crash, and then he called 911 and told them about the crash. He says it has been terrifying to him and the neighbors. I can't imagine the residents that have been hit and almost died. And Harding has become a raceway, which I can tell you it has. I have been out there walking with my family of a 5-year-old and my husband and almost got plowed into. This really needs to be addressed. I know that you guys, somebody has went out there and put like rumble strips out there, put a light, kind of flashing light, but I don't feel like it has done anything in slowing down the traffic. My recommendation would be, well, speed bumps, but again, I've been hearing what you guys have been saying. They would be accelerating and you would just hear the suspension fail and that would cause noise. So I was thinking possibly if you do stop signs. There is a street, I think it's Michelle in Harding. You can put a stop sign there. I don't know, maybe they'll blow through it and then hurt somebody that's coming out. I'm not sure what exactly needs to be done. I do know that it does need to be addressed before somebody gets killed. And clearly 5 times, that tells you something. And second of all, almost getting plowed. Myself with my son and my husband. Somebody coming off of Michelle and almost taking out my husband, myself, and my child. And it's all hours of the day. It doesn't stop. It's all hours of the day. Somebody needs to go out there and literally watch this. It's a speedway. It's serious. I really do feel like somebody is going to end up dead. And I don't want it to be myself, my family, or anybody that I love, or our community that I love. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Another card I have is John Rouse. John? No? Okay. Yeah, I know, it's a late night, yeah. All right. And we don't have any other cards. Anybody else want to speak? Yeah.
Seats. Up. No, don't jump all the way up there.
Really?
Typical Malinois. Thank you for a minute to address you guys. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to come and say thank you on behalf of the Canine Officers Association. Most of you guys made it out to the canine trials. We were notified by Western States Police Canine Association, who is the sanctioning entity that sanctions all these throughout the state that we compete in, that it was what they called the most successful canine trial in the last 15 years. They hadn't seen a community response that we had ever. They said there might have been one other canine trial that was ran as efficiently as ours. Normally the canine trials are done by 6, and we were battling 104 temperatures, and we were done off the field by 2. So it was very, very efficient. And I just wanted to come out and tell you guys, it really meant a lot to myself, Officer Gibson, and Sergeant Eshman to have you guys come out. I know Mr. Krager was extremely busy. He found some time to come out on a Friday for the narcotics section, and I think all of you guys made it out. I was running around. I didn't get to see all of you guys. I was pretty crazy. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming out. It really meant a lot to us, and we appreciate your guys' support.
We appreciate everything that you're doing for the community, so thank you very much.
I can say that we saw you and Gunner.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty good. We enjoyed it a lot, watching.
Good, I'm glad.
Gunner did phenomenal.
He did okay.
How did he do? Come on.
He didn't do as well as I wanted him to.
But he was fun to watch.
Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Do you have anybody else who wishes? Oh.
Hello, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I just wanted to piggyback on what the police officer said here. And
Can you
my
state
name's
your-
David Cunin, and I'm coming on behalf of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm the director of public affairs for the church, and I just want the city to know that they can count on that site forever. I have the blessing of our stake president, President Stephen Hammerstrom, that I think most of you know. And this was a welcomed opportunity for us to showcase what we can make available. So I think the city police, if they want to continue doing this, can count on that site at no cost. And and we'll make whatever accommodations. And we felt that it was people were very gracious to our rules there, that no paid food on our site. Everything's got to be free. So anyway, you should be able to count on that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, David, very much. We appreciate that. Anybody else like to speak? Okay. No, he can't speak. Okay, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on any of these items prior to the time that council votes on the motion, unless members of the city council, staff, or public request that any of these particular ones be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Great. All right, general items. We have wastewater treatment facility effluent discharge outfill diffuser, preparation of construction contract documents. Mandy.
Good evening, City Council. So today I'm going to make it short now. So today I will be making a recommendation to award a professional services agreement to consulting firm CH2M Hill Engineers to prepare the design documents for the wastewater treatment facility outfall diffuser relocation. So a little bit about the background. The wastewater treatment facility treats the wastewater from this great community, and it remains in service 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And once we treat the wastewater from the wastewater treatment facility, it has two options to dispose the treated water. Number one option is the existing diffuser, which is just on the north end of the ponds, or the north end of the slides, right, number 1 right here. And there is a picture pointing the arrow. This is how the diffuser looks like. It is a 24-inch diameter line sitting on the bed of the on the bottom of the river bottom, and has about 43-inch diffusers pointing the down to the downstream of the water, the direction of the water flow. So, and then the second option we have is the ponds, which are on the east side of the river channel. These ponds are about 120 acres in area, and there are 6 ponds. A little bit of history of the Shanghai Bend Falls. Our existing diffuser sits right on the north side, or on the upstream side of the Shanghai Bend Falls. And these are the falls before 2011. They were intact. What happens in late 2011 and early 2012, the falls gave away on the east side, and the river cut a really deep channel. What happens is that at the normal river flows, most of the time and throughout a year, the water gets moved, start flowing through this newly formed channel. And what happened then, our existing diffuser left exposed, and the state water, our permit, the NPDES permit, does not allow us we cannot use this diffuser unless it is submerged underwater about 9 or 10 inches or so. So this is a little bit of history. Before 2011, diffuser was available year-round at any river flows. And after 2011, diffuser is exposed at less than 6,000 CFS flow, cubic feet per second. What does that mean is that the river flows are 6,000 feet, about mostly sometimes in summer when the state is making deliveries to the farmers or to the downstream customers. And then because of the Lake Oroville incident in 2017 and 18, now the diffuser becomes available only at a flow of approximately 10,000 cubic feet per second, which does not happen very often unless the dam is releasing a lot of water or it's a storm event. So at the normal river flows, our only option is the ponds. The problem with the ponds is the ponds are limited in capacity and they need regular maintenance. In order to do the maintenance, we need to get a pond at a time dry, so which we do not get opportunity very often because they're limited in capacity. We need to keep them full, keep discharging water in it. And then the second problem is the ponds are vulnerable to damage during the river flood events. And if it's a big flood event, then ponds gets damaged, then it takes a long time for them to repair. And if they're not available, then we don't have any option to discharge our treated water. And also, the California Regional Water Quality Control Board asked the city to relocate the diffuser to a reliable location where we can use it year-round. So in order to do the relocation, the staff conducted 2 studies back in the last 5 years, and we identified an area about 1.25 mile downstream of the Shanghai Bend Falls. And in order to move forward on that path, the Public Works Department issued a request for proposal to 8 engineering firms who are capable of doing these type of projects, and we received 3 proposals, and those proposals were reviewed, and 2 firms were invited to interview with the review committee. And then a review committee made a unanimous recommendation for CH2M Hill Engineers or /Jacobs team to move forward on this project. And And basically, they were selected for their highly experienced proposed team. They have done projects in California and also on the West Coast. And their availability of the proposed staff, as well as their great capability for the river modeling work for this type of projects. So upon selection of the CH2M Hill as the most qualified consultant, staff reviewed and discussed the scope of work with those expert members of the team, and we determined this is a really high-risk project which requires significant studies before the start of the design work. And most of it is because of changing river conditions because of the 2017 Lake Oroville incident that played a really major role for these additional scope of work, which are, for example, we need to do additional surveys. We have to study the materials coming from upstream, that how are they going to impact on our potential new location, and also the modeling and how the new diffuser is going to work. So then additional scope was identified in an attempt to mitigate the risks that we think that can be a potential problem for during construction and also after we construct during the operation of the diffuser. So in order to mitigate those risks, staff has identified additional scope of work, and that additional scope of work added significant amount to the total scope proposed by this design team. So the anticipated project schedule, this has also been published in our application to the new NPDES permit to the state, that with council's approval of this project, it is anticipated to complete the design of the project by 2020, summer of 2020, and then advertise the bids in the fall and award the contract in fall of 2020 and start up construction in spring of 2021 with the anticipated completion of summer or fall of 2022. So fiscal impact, this project will be funded completely by the wastewater CIP fund. And for today's recommendation, this project will be awarded to this consultant for all the services for pre-design, design, all the studies, and all the work through the bid opening of the construction project. And any work after during construction will be recommended at that time. So so the total impact would be about $3 million, which includes $200,000 in contingency. So with that, I would like to make recommendation that award a professional services agreement to CH2M Hill Engineers of Sacramento, California, in the amount of $2,783,000, $430,000, plus $200,000 in contingencies to provide professional services necessary for the wastewater treatment facility effluent outfall diffuser relocation in the Feather River, including design, environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and services during bid period, with the finding that it is in the best interest of the city, and authorize this public works director to adjust the scope of work as necessary with the authorized amount, within the authorized amount, and also authorize the finance director to make a budget transfer from the unallocated wastewater CIP reserve fund in the amount of $1.4 million to the wastewater CIP account number for the new outfall and river levee crossing replacement. With that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mandeep. Any questions? Bring it back to the council for any questions for Mandeep.
To the mayor.
Yes.
It's not really a question, but a couple small items here. I can say that I've worked with CH2M Hill on specifically the Feather River and different things in the past with their abilities to do, and it was in another life when I was at the county. They're very experienced at this. They definitely are the right choice to make in this matter on river mapping and issues. And also I would like to remind staff that I mentioned about Lower Feather River Corridor Management Plan, that within that plan, there are provisions to provide some protections and already some of the environmental research and issues inside of that plan. So finding those and making sure that those are applied to the environmental study that needs to be done. And then also that a diffuser is considered a hard point in a river, according to anything that's done in Sacramento River, which was actually supposed to have been applied to other rivers, that terminology, where there are places like bridges, places where boat ramps are, intakes, outflows from cities, that they're supposed to be protected with the same rights as the environmental concerns that are out there for the bugs, shrubs, and fish. So just to press the issue based upon the studies that are already out there and legislation that actually helps to protect some of these things. So just encourage that. And if there's any extra people needed to for the interpretation and reminding of it, do know the people that actually helped develop some of this stuff and point the direction as to who to talk to.
Okay, thank you.
So there are good things out there for us.
Okay, thank you.
Questions, concerns from any other council members?
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Home Investment Partnership Program, First Time Home Buyer Program, and an Owner Occupied Housing Rehabilitation Program grant application.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The item before you this evening is a request to authorize staff to submit a home grant application in the amount of $500,000 to the state of California. Simply for background purposes, the program itself, it's primarily oriented for first-time home buyers and owner-occupied rehab. However, there's another clause that also allows tenant-based rental assistance through the program. Just in terms of a broad overview, the different programs that the city currently offers for potential first-time home buyers or for owner-occupied rehab programs, the city does have 4 active programs. This past year or a couple of months ago, the council approved the city's action plan. Within that action plan, there was a proposal to allocate $100,000 through the CDBG program, which would be eligible for either first-time home buyers or for owner-occupied rehabs. So those funds are available today, and that would be for the fiscal year 2018 to 2019. The city also has approximately $310,000 available today through the home program, and those $310,000 were accumulated over time. So as the city provides loans, as those loans are paid back to the city over time, those dollars are placed into a pot of funds, and then the city reuses those dollars or recycles those dollars back to new applicants. So we do have a balance in that account today of $310,000. We have another fund, which is called the Cow Home Program, and that's the reuse fund, and there's roughly $69,000 in that account. So again, those dollars were dollars that were paid back to the city that we in turn use again to put back out to the community. And then we have a 4th program called the 11 Cow Home Program, which has approximately $40,000. So total right now, the city does have roughly $518,000. If we're awarded this grant amount, then obviously that would put us at about $1 million for eligible programs. In terms of this specific program, the Cow Home Program, which is the second line item there, which currently has an income of $310,000, just for historical perspective, the city has approximately $5.1 million in active loans today, and that's amongst 46 active loans. So that doesn't include all the loans that the city's historically provided. However, there are 46 active loans. The The oldest loans, I think, goes back to 1994. The most recent was a couple of months ago. So the loans themselves range between $7,000 and $1.1 million. However, 43 of the 46 loans were made to individuals or to couples. There were 3 loans that were made for apartments, and the 3 apartments are the larger loans. So there are a couple of large loans again, the highest being about a 1.1 million. There's another one that's about $1 million. But for the most part, if you take a look at the loan amounts, they range between $15,000 and about $75,000. That's the vast majority of the 43 loans. So with that being said, this evening staff is recommending that the council authorize staff to submit a grant application in the amount of $500,000 to the state for home funds. Staff is anticipating hearing a response from the state about December of this year to see if we are awarded the funds. So with that being said, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. For council, any questions, comments, motion? Yeah.
Arnaldo, how does an individual come into be aware of the availability of those loans, and how do we reach out to them? And what's the eligibility criteria?
So one of the things that the city does is we partner with the Housing Authority. We also partner with Habitat for Humanity. A lot of people historically have gone through the Housing Authority because they're participants, or the Housing Authority reaches out to the local real estate community, to local mortgage brokers, to advertise our program. Prior to the Housing Authority being on board, which occurred about October of 2016 or 2015, prior to that, the city was using an outside firm from the Sacramento area. We felt at the time that that we needed a change to have a much more local presence, and since then, I feel that we've made significant progress in providing more loans than we were prior to that. Can we do better? Absolutely. And that's a job that both the city and the Housing Authority are dedicated to truly partnering and trying to reach different target groups in our community. That initially, again, going back to about 2015, that was one of the challenges that, quite frankly, it flew under the radar.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Question?
Well, if you have one still.
Go ahead and finish.
I'm done.
You're done.
Okay.
If you have a question, I was going to make a motion. If you don't
Yeah,
have
through
a
the mayor,
question.
you can do the motion, but I have a question regarding the loans themselves. Are they on a time if you repay them back within a certain time? Is there restrictions to where if you pay it back too soon, like 15 years or something? Because I'm familiar with somebody that ended up kind of got caught within a faux pas or whatever you want to call it on this. How is this designed to where those types of things are less likely to happen?
So I think the Housing Authority, and I'm looking at Becky Flores, she may be the best person to answer. If you wouldn't mind coming on up.
Absolutely, because I know she was involved with the original one I'm talking about too. But it doesn't. And it's a caution for the future.
Thank you. I'm Becky Flores with the Regional Housing Authority, and on behalf of the city, we administer this program for the residents of Yuba City. I should say these programs because it includes both single-family rehab for low-income owner-occupants and also first-time homebuyer program for low-income homebuyers. So I think Councilmember Cleveland, you're talking about the first-time homebuyer program and how those loans get repaid. The term on those are typically 30 years. There were some design elements in the program in the past where if you repaid the loan within a certain time frame, there was a split if there was any equity in the home, and that has kind of been phased out. So now it's just simple interest. You pay 3% interest and you can sell at any time and pay off within the 30 years and just calculate 3% simple interest on the principal. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Yep. And I'm available for any other questions if you have any.
Thank you, Becky. Any other
It's
questions?
nice to see that it was cleaned up, the process.
Any questions or a motion?
I move to approve staff recommendation.
Okay, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Great, thank you. And then we have business from City Council. Guess this one's mine. Appointments for our City Council boards and commissions. Vice Mayor Harris and myself, we did interviews over a period of time to fill our vacancies for the Personnel Board. So we do have 3 folks here as recommendations. Joanne Ellis, David Cole, and Anthony Curlin are the 3 folks that we recommend to be appointed to the Personnel Board. So we will take a vote, a motion on that.
Move to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Great. Thank you. And moving right along, City Council reports. We'll start with Councilmember Buckland.
All right, I'll make it very, very short. Attended the Sutter Animal Services Authority meeting a couple weeks ago. Really nothing to report out of any great significance. Also attended last week the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency meeting, and what's nice to report from this is all of the construction for the 37.9 miles. I don't know. It's a lot of miles. All the initial work from Yuba City all the way up into Butte County has been completed. The only thing that we're working through on that is just some of the finalization of getting money back from the state of California on that project itself. Also, we're starting the process on the $50 million project, the federal project in the South Sutter Basin, which has an effect on Yuba City. Should there be a failure at that location. So that is in process. We still don't know who the head of the lead on construction will be. It'll either be Army Corps of Engineers, or will be Sabufka, or the Sutter Butte Flood Control Agency. So we'll know probably more as we go through the remainder of this year, with construction now to start on that project in early 2019. Also, groundbreaking for the bank at Feather River, which we saw part of that tonight, so I'm not going to go too much more into it. Western Farm Workers are out and active. The group is out and active. They supplied for migrant housing over at on the east side of the city. They supplied cleaning supplies for each one of the units. But right now, the big push is they want to put together 500 school backpacks. They will go to migrant farm worker children that are present, that are in Yuba City, Colusa, and Gridley is the focus on that. This Saturday, they'll be at Grocery Outlet collecting those items, and also you can drop off backpacks in a barrel over at the Millennium Center on Spiva. So that's another collection point. But there's collection points in other locations in town, but these are the only 2 that I'm aware of right now. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Cardoza.
Okay, it's been a month since our last meeting. Excuse me, so I've had a pretty busy month. I'm going to be quick about this because I'm getting dirty looks next door. I'm going to start with meetings. Attended the Regional Housing Authority meeting, the Yuba Center Transit Authority, SASA, Planning Commission, Sutter Butte's Flood Control, LAPCO, the Bi-County Homeless Services Program, and Homeless Consortium meetings. For chamber events, we had 3 ribbon cuttings the last month. We had our Chamber of Commerce moved back to Yuba City in the Madhouse. So we had a wonderful ribbon cutting, welcoming them back to Yuba City. Mattress Haven and Prestige Family Living So, city and community events. I'm going to start off with, I attended a open house for Recycling Industries. Thank you, Mr. Cunin. I got a little bit educated and on the expansion that he's planning for the future. It was very interesting. I learned a lot from the folks. Also attended, we also had a SACOG special event last month. They came down, represented us in the community. Councilman Buckland kind of led the way, showed the community what it was all about. Like he spoke earlier, the Bank of Feather River groundbreaking. Attended the re-grand opening of Johnson's Bait and Tackle. It's a historical landmark in our community. We have 2 brand new owners. They brought it back to community. I talked to the gentleman. He was the first person that bought the first product in the box before it was even on the shelf, and that was back in 1943. So Johnson's Bait and Tackle's been in the community for quite a long time. Fourth owner in that many years. Attended the Arts Culture Festival for Love of Frida by the U.S. Arts Council. I walked a mile in women's shoes Saturday, paid for it Sunday for Casa de Esperanza for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. All of us also attended the 16th annual 4th of July Children's Parade. That was a wonderful day in the community. We purchased 1,000 participant ribbons, and we passed them all out, and we needed more, so we had one of our biggest turnouts in 16 years. That was a great event for our community. We also attended the Mock City Hall Council meeting and graduation ceremony for our Summer and City Hall students. The fire department had a badge pinning ceremony. We welcomed 6 new firefighters, and we had 14 new promotions within our staff. For the Yuba City Police Department, we all attended the K-9 trial community event. The PD's volunteers and policy, I assisted them in children's fingerprinting at Kohl's, and I attended Friday night the sobriety checkpoint on Bridge Street, which in the summertime is a whole lot better than in the winter. This last month, all for the summer, the Yuba City Unified School District has kids and teen summer free meals program. They feed breakfast and lunch for any students from 1 to 18. No questions asked. Just go to the schools of the community, and they will feed you breakfast or lunch. I've been doing that. Tomorrow's my last day, so I'm just going to add them in. We had the 16 schools for the Yuba City Unified School District, and then we also had, let me get this right here. And I also wanted to give a special thanks for the staff. And I fed as little as 10 and as many as 100 students in this program. And then we also welcomed the kids to the summertime program, the Adventist Church, and also the Rocket Club, Mayhall Plaza, and Children's Center for Richland Housing. So that's a wonderful program. That way no children goes unfed, and then it continues on for the school. Anyway, that's it for me for the month. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Cleveland.
Thank you much. Yeah, it was quite busy, but I was dealing with an ill mother-in-law, and I'll mention a little bit about that in a minute. Let's see. Yeah, it was very busy. I'll start off with attending, of course, Yuba Center Transit as a member. Manny's actually the chair of that this year. K-9 trials, had a blast there. Yes, it was warm, but they did get done very quickly and efficiently. Let's see, the open house at the chamber and the ribbon cutting, attended that. It's great to have them back. And during that week also, and to the 4th of July, I was the chairman and manager of one of the fireworks booths in town, so I was on call all day long for that, and it's my 26th year of doing that, so I'm trying to find somebody young to take over. I'd love to have that happen. Mattress Haven ribbon cutting, which is neat to have. Cut the middleman out, and we're going to have inexpensive, high-quality mattresses available locally. Moving on to, let's see, the parade, 4th of July parade was a blast. Yeah, they had 1,000 hot dogs, 200 more than last year, and they ran out with still 200 more needed. So each year it's been going up 200 to 300 people on that, and so it turned out great. Kids were hilarious. Some of the outfits were just really great. Let's see. Right here. LAFCO. I attended LAFCO, and I was voluntold to be the candidate for the state LAFCO board to go on to be voted for by the LAFCO group. So I have to attend the conference because of that, which, I don't mind doing that. But so I will be the candidate for the state board of LAFCO. I also attended the mosquito vector, and they have decided also to have me the voting rep for mosquito vector at their annual conference for that, which, if I'm the only one available, I'll do it. I don't mind serving in that area. In fact, it's really interesting, some of the mosquito vector stuff you learn about the types of mosquitoes that are in our community. Yeah.
Like a shed one right there.
Yeah, yeah, and actually this year some of the mosquito types are very low, and then one area up north, Yuba City up near the Buttes, there's a high count, so they had to already start doing spraying and aerial. So it's an odd year. Let's see here. And then I would like to also just close and mention of my mother-in-law that had a short illness, passed away on July the 2nd, very quick illness and surprise, 86 years old, and so we're dealing with that. And she was a fantastic mother-in-law. I can say I enjoyed her very much. She had 5 children, 15 grandchildren, and 39 great-grandchildren, with another one probably on the way. So she, and they're all about family, and having a good time together. So she will be sorely missed. And I will close with that.
Thank you, Stan. And we have Vice Mayor Harris.
All right, real quick. Many things we overlapped with Councilman Cardoza, but one thing I did attend was the Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting at their new facility, or the old facility over on Franklin. It was a very good time, very good turnout. We're happy to have them back on this side of the river. As far as the Arts Board continued to participate in that, we're working on a cultural plan for a region. It's still a work in progress to help bring awareness to the arts, also some businesses and other things that kind of piggyback and kind of latch onto that momentum that we're hoping to create in that regard. The fire department, I know it was already mentioned, but we attended that. Some folks, part of our SAFER grant, have now become full-time firefighters. Other folks were promoted all the way up to our fire marshal. And a very good turnout, very good family event. We're very proud of all of those folks. They're doing a good job and working really hard to get where they are. Summer at City Hall, again, kudos to all city staff. What a successful program. We attended that graduation ceremony. Nothing but positive come out of that, and that's a really wonderful thing. The Children's Parade, 4th of July, echo what's already been said. It was a great turnout, great fun time, and it's just a really, I think, a jewel in our crown as a community, the fact that we provide that and provide so much fun and good times, and for a patriotic reason even, makes it even better. And last 3 weeks, as of today, and I wasn't going to embarrass anybody, however, for a 14-year-old to sit into a city council meeting for over 3 hours. Chris joined our family about 3 weeks ago, actually 3 weeks ago today, and I want to say looking forward to many months together, young man, and you're doing a great job so far, and I'm proud of you. So welcome to my world. It's going to be many more of these, so stand by with your patience. All right. I'm learning how to play, what is it? Call of Duty, pretty good. But not past 10 p.m. No, midnight. I'm sorry, we negotiated.
No.
Anyway, other than that, we're good. It's been a good time, and that's all I've got.
Great. Awesome. I think Chris was on the winning end on that midnight compromise. Yeah. Just a few things. So over since our last council meeting, wrapped up the Summer at City Hall program. Thank you to all the staff. It looks like Brad's here. Darren's obviously not here, but all of the staff that participated and really made that program to be hugely successful for the students. I constantly, a matter of fact, while we were sitting here, I actually got another text message from another student, constantly getting feedback with the what they got out of the program and what they've learned and what they're taking with them, and really, really using the information to actually enhance what they're doing today. So this individual, Lisa, just contacted me while we were sitting here. She's like, I think the 6th student out of that program that in the last 2 weeks has asked how to move forward with some of their ideas. So thank you very, very much. And they closed the program with their tour at Beale Air Force Base. And right after that, or actually right in the midst of that, I actually attended the mayor's conference, and I sat on a panel there to discuss the pathways to engage youth in their communities and become civically engaged. So we were able to share our experiences with the program here, with other cities represented there. Children's Parade, 4th of July, wonderful, wonderful event. And I love that it's getting bigger and bigger. I like the fact that we run out of hot dogs. It just shows that more and more people are coming out there. So, pretty much after, and the cookies.
Lots of
Yeah.
cookies.
And then after that, unfortunately, took a sad venue for our family. We unexpectedly lost my cousin at the age of 51 from a heart attack. But he always stepped in for me as a brother. So our family's feeling a loss. We still have quite a bit of family here with us visiting. But we will feel his loss, but our hearts and prayers go out to his wife and his 3 children that he left behind, who are still in shock, still trying to accept the fact that he's not here. So tonight, we will adjourn this meeting in memory of my cousin Sultan Tiara, as well as Councilmember Cleveland's mother-in-law, Marlene Armstrong. So with that, we will adjourn tonight.